only saw a handful that even considered the possibility of a bus owner being a more aspirational position and recognizing that I am actually speaking and pouring into the ascension of Black men when I said what I said. But see, no, some of y'all were too busy naming and shaming me personally and Black women in general as undesirable, gold diggers, and much worse. Now, I suspect that some of y'all are the same men that were bringing home C's and D's on your report cards, only to then be coddled by parents that said, well, that's okay, as long as you're doing your best. Well, listen, I love and believe in the excellence of Black men. So no, my dear, C's and D's or any other form of mediocrity is not okay. No, I will not create a soft place for you or anybody that I love to fall comfortably into the bigotry of low expectations. So I'm going to say one more time, there's absolutely nothing wrong with driving a bus. My mother Gloria drove one for years. But could it be that Black America has been sold a narrative of average, regular, and typical being good enough for us? Well, see, that's called white supremacy. And in this case, it takes the form of conditioning Black Americans to happily accept being a permanent American underclass. But see, because I know the truth about Black folk in America, no, average is not and will never be good enough for me. And the gag is, I don't think it's good enough for you either.
A reading by Ebony K. Williams, 2023, 5th. Interesting. All right, cool. Listen, guys, it's crazy. Don't wash my hat. Don't wash my hat. Don't wash my hat. Okay. All right. Listen, don't wash the hat. All right. We out here, baby. Okay. Don't wash the hat. Listen, don't wash the hat. Okay. Listen, look, let me keep it a buck. Let me keep it real. Okay. Let me keep it a buck. Let me keep it real for you guys. Okay. Now, talking about Ebony Williams, the situation, I want to keep it real. Okay. I actually agree with part of what she said. Right. Because a lot of the people that were uneducatedly kind of breaking certain things down, right, were speaking from a hurt place, were coming at her in a particular angle, and some of the people that were speaking, I agree, were average at best. I am included. Okay, I'm included. I am one of those brothers that also got C's. Well, I mean, I got C's and B's, right? But I'm in that bracket she's talking about. I was average. In fact, I was so average, I actually failed psychology. I actually failed. I got a U. I got an ungraded, meaning I didn't even get enough marks to get an F. I got an ungraded. Okay. I was also one of those average individuals who decided to make a comment about her situation. Now, she was very specific, so let me be fair to her. Specifically, what she spoke about the average male was talking about those males that called her a gold digger, and said that, she basically won't find anybody, right? Which is not what I was saying. What I was kind of talking about is the reality of the dating pool and the dating market. And, so I wasn't necessarily pressed by what she said. But I think this video further expounded upon the issue we talked about with Ebony. She's got an attitude problem. This is not her taking a rap for Black women. This is not her being a symbol for Black women. This isn't her taking one for Black women. This is specifically about Ebony Williams. She has an attitude problem. That's her biggest flaw, is the arrogance and the attitude and the lack of ability to see her own blind spots. Even with therapy at this point in time, she still doesn't get it. I mean, let me change it. I think she gets it. I think she's fighting herself, trying to come to the other side. She's so used to having to protect herself and reacting that this was one of those situations, again, once more, where she's fighting and reacting, right? But in reality, what came out was that attitude that I spoke about. I told you, didn't I? I told you about this attitude. Some of you told me you only saw a second. What have you never made a mistake before, Kojo? And it's like the attitude was prominent right there. That contemptible, rude, arrogant attitude was right there. That classist attitude was right there in about 0.few seconds in the way she reacted. Okay. in the way the same way she reacted to speaking with Anyala, right? So now you see it in more seconds. Do you need more seconds to see the attitude, or do we need to see her whole entire life? Do we need to see her whole entire life before we call out the attitude? Right? Do we need to see wholesome clips of 10 years, 20 years of her life before we see attitude? And say, no, this is an attitude. This attitude is poor. Okay? Right? So the reality of the situation is she got a bad attitude, and this is what's causing her the biggest issue. See, you can be good looking. It's going to have all the milk in the yard that's going to call these men to come and get this milkshake. Okay, all right. Your good looks can be all the milk in the yard mixed with the shake, and we get a little something, right? But the reality is, right, what keeps them, okay, is not this bad attitude, right? It's going to send men packing away. All right. It's going to send men packing away, you know? So in reality, this situation, like I was saying, is an attitude issue. It's an attitude issue. So let's break it all the way down, because we're gonna break it all the way down. We're gonna take a little bit of time. We're gonna break it all the way down. You know, and we're gonna dive a little bit deeper. Okay. All right, we're gonna dive a little bit deeper. Okay, we're gonna dive a little bit deeper. All right, so we're gonna get into this. I'm gonna show you why there's arrogance, there's classism, there's elitism. No, not elitism. Sorry, there's classism involved, not necessarily elitism. Elitism was the wrong word. You know, so let's get into that conversation. So if you're new to the channel, do me a massive favor. Make sure you guys like it, you share, you subscribe, you click on that bell button for notification of the uploads. And for those of you who are returnees, you already know what it is, baby. You got the minerals. I mean, let's lift this up a little bit, because it be blocking my eyesight. I can't see nothing. Okay. I can't see nothing. Okay. But let's get into this. All right. Listen. Do me a massive favor. Let's like the video. There's 86 people in this room. Let's get it going. Okay. All right. And let's get into this situation. All right. Let's get into the situation. All right. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. I see a few comments already in the chat. I love that. I'm going to address them as well. You know, I'm going to definitely address it, and I love it. Let's get into these stuff. Okay. We have a brother in here, Boat 111, who says he's a black man working an engineer, and I stand with Ebony. Fantastic. I love it. If you could tell us why you stand with Ebony, that would be very helpful, and then we can go from there. Let's talk about it. You know, let's talk about it as well. Jessica says, don't be one of them. Shaking my head. Have no clue what you're talking about, Jessica. Do you want to expand on what you mean? And then we can discuss it and go forward. You know, love to hear your point as well. Okay. This is Mad in the Dunya. All right, cool. Let's get into this. Stephanie Lopez said, I would just say a tad ignorant and judgmental. She seems to lump all blue-collar men together and acts as if they have low ambition and useless. Okay, cool. Let's get into this. Let's break this down from her perspective, the video, and let's talk some real talk.
So out of the 50,000 plus comments posted on social, I only saw a handful that even considered the possibility of a bus owner being a more aspirational position, and recognizing that I am actually speaking and pouring into the ascension of black men.
I want to pause it right there. First and foremost, let's just break down her comments. First thing that she said was, you know what? I only saw a handful of comments talking about the bus driver and the bus driver owning the buses. Now, I do believe there's an aspect of what she's talking here, which can be true. Okay. There's definitely an aspect of this being very, very true. Okay. Because if you really deep it, right, you know, a lot of people that were commenting actually missed part of the situation. They when I say missed it, the whole argument became about feelings rather than what's being said, right? So I definitely agree that, listen, there can be a conversation about us owning bus buses and owning these particular things. I don't think we can miss that part of the conversation. We can start to look at how we can expand and how we can grow and how we can be excellent in those particular spaces, right? So I'm not pressed about that. Okay, I'm not pressed about it. I think that she had a point there, right? And I don't want to see 50,000 comments, especially when they're not really educated, right? I saw a lot of comments that weren't really, for me, weren't educated. They weren't deep. You know, they didn't go they didn't press deeper into the issue, right? For my own standing, right? For me personally, I like to do background and like get an understanding of the psychology of where people come into. Okay, all right, okay. So that part I definitely agree with. Now, what I don't like is people lying, okay, and people pretending as if they actually have an alternative agenda as to uplifting a Black community. This is not true. You had no agenda uplifting the Black community, i.e. Black men. Bearing in mind, remember, it wasn't even about Black men. It was about men in general. That's what I don't like about things like this. Contextually, when she started the video with Anyala, she told us straight, I'm talking about men across the spectrum because I've dated them all. That's what she told us. So where did it become about Black men? When did we get drawn into it? Why is it not all men? Why has it suddenly become about Black men? Why has it become about Black men? You were talking about all men when you were talking with Anyala. You never mentioned specifically Black men in your conversation. You were talking about all men because you've dated all men, right? So why are we now at a point where we're now talking about I'm heavily invested in uplifting Black men? Right? Where is what is that? what is that? You were trying to speak to uplift Black men and elevate us. How? And chocolate cheesecake, no, it's not evident because she told us. Again, I don't want to argue about things that people are not saying. She said what she said. Let's not argue about how you feel. Today I'm on one. It's day 3. So I'm going to keep it real with everybody. What did she actually say? Don't misquote. What did she actually say? Chocolate cheesecake 3, what did she actually say? Did she say Black men? Did she mention Black men? When she was talking to Anyala, what did she mention? See, I like to do intertextual, right? And I like to have context, right? So when I do my things, I bring in evidence, I go and collect information, and I bring it to the conversation. When she was talking about originally who she dated, who was she talking about? Was it not about all men? It was about all men. So why are you now pretending as if now it's about me trying to uplift Black men? It's not about you uplifting Black men. There's nothing uplift here about Black men. Right? There's nothing uplifting here about you saying about this about Black men. Right? That was my first thing. Like, you chatting crud, like, hold your own and stay true to your word. You said what you said. That's fine. No words at all. All right. That's not a problem at all. I got no problem. You hold your own. If you're gonna hold your own, but don't pretend as if it was about uplifting and ascending Black men. That's the arrogance. That's the arrogance. That's the arrogance we're talking about. That's the arrogance of attitude that comes into play. Right? That's what comes into play. Come on now. Let's keep it real, right? So, and again, I'm ready to address certain comments. Saying from what I saw on Black men over social media, made about Black men by posting degrading comments about Black women being undesirable and need to be humbled in response to Ebony. Now, pause it right there. Let's talk about this. Number one, when she did the video, had Black men responded yet? We hadn't. We didn't even know about it because until she actually drops the video, who can respond to it? Let's keep it a buck. Let's use logic here today. Come on. When she dropped the video, Black men hadn't responded because we didn't know until she drops the video. So how can we say, oh, but clearly she's talking about Black men? No. Let's go on what she said. Don't try to tap dance and bring other things. Let's use logic. When she dropped the video, we hadn't responded yet until she dropped the video. So when she's talking to Anyala at first, We're not involved in this. We weren't involved in this. We weren't involved in this. Yes, it's we because I'm a black man. We weren't involved in this. Right? So she said it first. She says her part in a video, right? And then black men respond. So let's keep it a buck onto what it actually was. Because when she first started talking, it wasn't about the ascension of black men. Because you spoke about all men. When she preferenced her conversation in that section of the video, she said very clearly, I'm talking about all men because I've dated all men. So don't try to gaslight me and tell me what we saw when the videotape is very clear. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, guys. Let's not. You know what I mean? I'm not even saying that you actually. And I'm being facetious when I say don't gaslight me. It's not gaslighting. I just don't believe that that some of you are remembering what she actually said pre-facing the conversation. All right. So yes, she spoke about all men. We responded. But so how can her conversation then, if that's the case, if the case is she said all men before she started, how can it be that she was trying to ascend black men? Why didn't she say in this clip again, I was trying to ascend all men again once more? Why did she make it specifically about black men? Right? So when she did the video, she said all men. Now she's making it specific about I'm trying to uplift all black men. No, you weren't, because you said it about all men. You said no man has protected you. No man has been consistent in protecting you and providing for you. You haven't seen it. I just like to keep it real, you know. Let's get into this conversation, right? Let's get some deeper, all right? Let's get deeper, all right?
When I said what I said. But see, no, some of y'all were too busy naming and shaming me personally and black women in general as undesirable, gold diggers, and much worse.
Now, let's pause it here. This is a part where I fully agree with her. I was on Twitter, I'm on Instagram, and I saw some comments that were really bad, that were awful, that were disgusting, distasteful. Okay, there was some that was some arrogant, distasteful, uncouth type of comments from black men. There were disparaging comments from some black men. Absolutely, that I will not disagree with. So I'm with her on this part. You know, I'm with her on this part. You see what I'm saying to you? I'm fully with her on this part. So I'm not going to disagree, disappoint, and I actually agree with her. There were some comments that I was seeing. I was like, yo, that don't make no sense to me, bro. All right. I don't want to be saying about she's undesirable. She's a gold digger. You never got that from me. You know what I mean? All right. So for me personally, I agree with her on this point. She made a good point here, and it's absolutely true. Right? There are certain men that were literally, you know, saying those disparaging comments. So she's making a point there, and we agree with her. So we can stand on that point.
Now, I suspect that some of y'all are the same men that were bringing home C's and D's on your report cards, only to then be coddled by parents that said, well, that's okay, as long as you're doing your best. Well, listen, I love and believe in the excellence of...
Now, pause it here. I want to be fair to her as well. All right. I want to be fair to her as well in this instant. Okay. I want to be fair to her. She's and this is where you need to be fair, because I'm doing the exact same thing. She's prefaced the conversation of what she's saying about average now. Okay. She's prefaced it talking about those men that were calling her a gold digger and saying that she was undesirable. So she's saying it specifically to these men. Right? So let's make it very clear, right? Because English is really important, right? She's prefaced the conversation at this point specifically to those men who were saying that she was what? An undesirable and a gold digger and whatever. I think the third one that she also said. So it's specific to those type of men. It's not to all men. It's specific to those type of men, right? In this instance, in this portion of the conversation. So let's keep it fair and say the truth. She's talking to those type of men, right? I'm listening to her. She's shooting back at some of her critics, and I'm hearing her.
Of black men. So no, my dear, C's and D's or any other form of mediocrity is not okay. No, I will not create a soft place for you or anybody that I love to fall comfortably into the bigotry of low expectations.
Now, here is where she went off. This is where she went off, though. Right? This is where she went off. This is specifically where she went off, because where she was going to, and then now she wanted to add on specifically. Okay, all right. Specifically, she said, and this is where you get C's and D's. Okay, all right, and you guys are average. But the reality is, what makes somebody exceptional? Is it C's and D's? No. Let's keep it real. So this is where you're gonna lose me, right? And this is where it becomes about you trying to hit, and I get it, but you're missing it, right? When you talk about C's and D's, what are C's and D's actually? What is C's and D's? What is the context of C's and D's? Someone tell me what the context of C's and D's are. Right? What is the context of C's and D's? Some of you are C and D's in this chat. So what is the context of C's and D's? What context? Thank you. College education. It is schooling. It is not the determinant of where you will land in life. It can be, but it's not the full. It is not the full determinant of who you are now. There are people who run businesses, billionaire businesses, who didn't even finish school. What are you telling me? This is exactly what we're talking about. When you start trying to fight, you have to be very careful how you're fighting and listening, because C's and D's are only applicable to school. When you run your business, you're not graded by C's and D's. Right? You are not determined by C's and D's. Do you get what I'm saying to you? That's where she lost me. And I was like, no, you're losing me here, sis. Right? You're losing me here. Because even me personally, I got a U in psychology. I've told you guys this. I failed psychology. I failed it. What you want to say? I don't care if people want to look down on me. I believe I'm excellent. I failed psychology. I believe I'm excellent. At what I do, I believe I'm excellent. I got a U. I didn't even get a C or D. I got a U. I got a U. Right? So when you're saying someone's average at this point, and I'm saying to you, well, C's and D's is only a criteria for those who are in school. What? No one's in school. No one's in. Look, you're not dealing with people in school. Jessica said, "I'm caption." Yeah, I said I got a U in psychology, not in English. But sometimes I misspell. It is. Sometimes I misspell. It is what it is. You know what I mean? And I know you try to take a shot, but it doesn't really work, because I actually got a higher grade in English than I did in psychology. You know what I'm saying? So I don't mind. You know what I mean? But the reality is I failed psychology. So where's my excellence? My excellence because I got a U. So someone's going to determine how excellent I am because I got a U in psychology at my grown-ass age. I'm not determined by the U I got in psychology. Right? That does not determine the end of where most people are going to end up. That is what I'm trying to tell you. So again, we're focused, and it's a wrong determinant. I get where she's trying to go with it. I understand where she's trying to go with it, but nah, Jessica, you tried it. I ain't gonna lie to you. Jessica, you tried it. Let's just keep it honest. You did try it. You tried it. You tried to take a shot at me. I saw you, Jessica. Don't back down now. Keep going the way you're going. You try to come at me. I understand. It's not a problem. You did. But the reality is, yeah, the reality is, Some of the largest YouTubers, right? Some of the largest YouTubers are not A-grade students, right? Some of the greatest people, some of the greatest business persons are not the ones who are A-grade students. That does not determine the person's greatness. That doesn't determine the greatness. We had a conversation about this on his channel about Tiffany and Brett. All right, we had the same thing with Tiffany and Brett. Tiffany almost missed her blessing based on educational level, but yet the guy has ascended to the top of Nike. Think about, do you see what I'm saying to you? When you're ascribing what you're valuing, what are you really valuing? Tiffany almost missed it with Brett because of, simply put, because of education. You know what I'm saying to you? So I'm understanding where she's going, but I said she started going left with that particular part of the comment and started going towards there because even season D's, it can get problematic,
Patience. So I'm going to say one more time. There's absolutely nothing wrong with driving a bus. My mother Gloria drove one for years. But could it be that Black America has been sold a narrative of average, regular, and typical being good enough for us? Well, see, that's called white supremacy. And in this case, it takes the form of conditioning Black Americans to happily accept being a permanent American underclass. But see, because I know the truth about Black folk in America, no, average is not and will never be good enough for me.
Let's pause it there. This is fair. If average is not going to be good enough for you, I think this is fair. No one's got a problem with this. This further proves a point we're trying to say, right? Right? That again, if you're gonna reach a certain level, what's going to happen? You are going to have a smaller pool of people to date from because you're going to want a certain level. You can't date average. I'm not asking you to date the average. You know what I mean? Right? I'm not asking you to date the average. And anybody telling you necessarily to date average, we understand. No, we don't want to ask you to date average. What we are going to say is that you are pricing yourself out the market. This is what I said. And I said this. As you gain more excellence, as you grow more in stature, as you grow more in power, as you grow more in finances, okay? All right. This is going to cause you to realize you're not going to want to date down. Right. You're not going to want to. So we don't want to date down. Right. And so men who are, if there are men, and I'll be honest, a lot of the comments I saw were actually annoyed about the fact that the way she spoke about bus drivers. It was the dismissiveness of bus drivers. I told you again, it is not her saying she doesn't want to date bus drivers. It is the attitude. No, Miss Iona, this is what Ayana called out. Some of you think it's assertive and it's aggressive, and that's what Ayana called out on that video when I did a whole long version of it. Ayana called it out beautifully. Some of you think you're assertive. No, you're aggressive. In a business form, you're assertive, but when it comes to relationships, you're aggressive. And it shows in the way that you interact with people. So literally, what I'm saying in this instance for the situation is, babe, no problem with you wanting to not date average. No problem. No problem that you don't want to date average. It is this dismissiveness and the way you spoke about it. It's the way you spoke about it that caused a lot of people more to have an issue with the actual situation. You know what I mean?
And the gag is, I don't think it's good enough for you either.
Now, this is an really interesting point as well about average. What is average? Right? What is average? Average is also as well determined by different people or depending on what level they are, right? So for instance, if you say if I say average, my average will be different to her average, right? Because she's of a different echelon, right? She's reached a different class, a different level. So her version of average is gonna be different to my version of average. you know. So the reality in a situation is, all right, that average is different to different people. And I'm not mad at that again. I'm not mad at that again. We're not mad at that once more again. By all means, we are not mad at that again. Now, let me be very clear. Let me break down the game, because I saw some comments earlier on as well, right? On some of my other videos, okay? And some people felt some type of way and some things. So let me break down the game for you, right? And some of you might not like it, and it's an absolute truth, and it's unfortunate. It is what it is, okay? The dating system, okay, works in a particular way. Okay, all right. The dating system works in a particular way. Women tend to date up and men tend to date down in terms of economical power, right? Would you agree? Let's see if we can agree here as my audience. Let's see if we can agree on this, right? So that we can get an understanding. So I don't want to have to argue about the same point again. Just put in the chat. Do you agree that women tend to want to date men that are oftentimes financially, power, status wise, much bigger than them? Would we agree? Would we agree that women tend to try and date upwards, right? Socially. Would we agree? So women tend to look for men who have a little bit more in terms of finances, or equal, at least equal and a bit more. At least equal and a bit more, right? They try to find men who earn more, who, you know, who have more status and more power, right? And of course, there are a lot of examples of women who have decided to do potential. I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are. But generally, okay, can we agree on that? Generally, right? And you generally, so black women don't. So black women ordinarily, most of the time, generally date down. Then why are we having this conversation? Why are y'all mad? Generally, women, black women too, generally try to look for somebody who's of an equal or higher level. Okay, so that's generally what happens, right? You look for somebody who can supply your life, quote unquote, your lifestyle. I've heard it so many times for you guys in this chat. I'm not dating nobody who doesn't pay my mortgage. I'm not dating someone who can't do this. You generally look for somebody who's equal or goes above. That's generally how we do it, right? So that's how genuinely you look for a man, right? Men tend to, when they get to a certain point, tend to date downwards. Economically, they tend to date either equal or someone slightly below them. They don't tend to date upwardly, right? They don't tend to date upwardly, right? So that's the reality. That is the core reality, okay? The core reality, right, is that most people are trying to look for that particular thing. Now, the levels might be slightly closer because we're all, most of us are in the average bracket. So the gap is not huge. We understand that, you know, right? But most people look in that particular aspect. Not all, but generally, okay? Now, if that is the case, when women climb up the social economical ladder, the higher she goes, right, the pool becomes smaller because men are dating down economically and socially on a general principle. So when I'm saying, and I'm just going to branch this point so we can get into more conversation. So generally, this reality, the problem we have here is you price yourself out the market. But she has a bigger problem. Not only has she priced herself, quote unquote, when I say price herself out the market, meaning that there's a smaller pool to date from, the deeper aspect of this is she's got a bad attitude. Bad attitude. Right? Bad attitude. That's the reality. Right? Bad attitude. That's the reality of the situation. She's got a bad attitude, right? So if you're going to be desirable for these type of men, attitude's going to come into play. Oh, you don't see it? You don't see a bad attitude? You don't see a bad attitude, Miss Oni? What do you see then? Let me know what you see. Let me know what you see. Miss Delon, I can't even say the word, said if she said in a soft voice, would it make a difference? If Kevin Samuel said what he said in a soft voice, would it make a difference? Tone is everything. I've told you guys this. A lot of what Kevin Samuel said was actually true. But a lot of the times his tone made people not wanting to accept a lot of his message. There's a lot of stuff that he said was actually really bad as well. Right? But a lot of stuff he said was true. But his tone a lot of times was off. His angles oftentimes was off. Because it's coming from a hurt place. So people couldn't receive it. So tone is important. So saying it in a particular way is important. Not necessarily saying it soft, but choosing your words carefully is very different. Is also important. Okay. So this isn't about Charles said she's out. So just when I was feeling guilty about not being interested in black men, this situation pops up and I'm out. Well, then you're no different to the black men that said they're out for black women too. So what is your point? Like, again, before you think about other people and what they do, just remember the black men are saying the exact same thing about you. And this is what I'm trying to say about both parties and both communities. Both of y'all are hurt. And until you start realizing you're hurt, you ain't going to change. You know what I mean? You're saying you're out. The black men are also saying they're out. You're crying about it. He's crying about it. And actually, reality is we just need to be able to heal. And this is what we actually really need. We really need to heal, right? So she's talking about elevating the black men. There was nothing elevated in this conversation towards black men. Where was the elevation of black men in this conversation? I just rather she never spoke about it at all. But she spoke about elevating black men. Where did it elevate black men in this conversation? None at all elevated this black men. You know? So for her, and remember, I'm talking about her specifically. I'm not talking about black women. Ebony, I'm specifically making it about Ebony, not about Ebony as all black women. This is not the conversation I'm having. I've met so many great black women with great attitudes. I meet many black women who are endearing, who are kind, who are loving, who are appreciative, good qualities. So this is not a conversation about black women. It's about Ebony herself that we're talking about, right? So that's why I said I agreed with her in some of the things that the men were saying. I didn't agree with, you know. So that's it, you know. You know. Let's see. And thank you, Dorika, for breaking it down a bit more easier. You know, this is it. You know, the issue is that a woman's financial state doesn't necessarily make them more appealing to men. Yes, it's because that's not what they're looking for in a woman, and vice versa. You know, women are not necessarily looking for the most finest guy per se, but you know, they are looking for those quintessential qualities that provide provision, protect, and being a priest of their home. They're looking for those things too. So we look for similar qualities and similar characteristics, but not exactly the same. Hence why I said the further a woman goes up that ladder, the harder it gets. And you telling men, oh, well, you just need to raise your standards. It's like, you need to come up. No, we don't. You've gone exceptionally beyond what other people can do. The average bracket is much more wider. You know, it's much more of a bigger pool. So I'm not again saying her I'm not saying I'm not telling her to go and date down. You know, we're not telling you to date down. We're not doing that at all. We're telling her that, hey, look, the higher you go, you are a victim of your own success. This is the reality, right? You are a victim of your own success because the success puts you in a particular bracket. That means there's certain pools that you don't want to access anymore. Like she said, she doesn't want to do average anymore. So actually, anybody who's average in some aspect to her, which is majority of us, are actually cut off. No disrespect. We're cut off, and that's okay. But it does mean now your pool is smaller. That's all. We spoke about that the other day as well. So, you know, you know, hey, Miss K, thank you. If she says she dated all races and still has a problem, the whole trope of, well, go and date a white man, go date an Asian man, go and date this man. There are men who have a higher financial bracket. Money isn't the issue. Your attitude is, and how you approach relationships is. But I said that yesterday. And I think that's where people need to really understand what's going on, you know. And I said it yesterday about some of us just really need to heal and look at the market a different way, you know, in that instance. Did I make it about all black women? I don't remember. If I did, I don't remember doing that. I don't remember making it about black women. I made it specifically about Ebony. But if I did, I apologize. If I made it about all black women, I apologize. I made it about Ebony. Like I said, and to be fair, then it also relates to anybody who also is in the same predicament as Ebony, where you are so successful. If you then turn around and look, you'll realize you're at the top of the mountain. Your pool now becomes smaller. But this is specifically, I was dealing specifically with Ebony and her behavior. Hence why I did a background on her and said, look at the evidence. Look at what she's gone through as to why she is the way she is. You know what I mean? Also, I think there's some real reality here, you know. I think there's some real reality here as well in this instance. You know, I think there's some real reality here in this instance that I did feel like maybe potentially there could be some disdain for her mother's position, and it's being projected onto that particular role. So when she heard it, it's almost like it was a perfect storm. I don't know if Anyala knew that her mom was a bus driver or not, but it was like a perfect storm. You know what I mean? Like the mother represents the lower classism, you know, because now she's elevated to her. Like I said, I heard the classist attitude coming from Ebony in that instance. So for me personally, I was like, oh, okay, I you know, I think she might be feeling some way about that role. It might have triggered something as well. So I'll put that there. You know, listen, I'm always willing to open up conversation. I've put the link in the chat for you guys because a lot of you are typing in the chat. It's very courageous. I love it. Come on the platform. Let's have a conversation. You know, I'm respectful. I'm never gonna shut people down. I have a real conversation with you. I'll listen. But you know, listen, come have a conversation. Let's have a conversation. I've got a bit of time today before I go to the gym again. You know, and let's have that real conversation as well about this, about what's going on. I think this is a really important issue to break down. I'm very much aware that, you know, there may be some undertones of other situations that are playing into this right now that many people might have felt, many women might have felt like Anyala is telling her to date down, and they've heard that before. Look, we don't want to ask women to date down. So that's immediate no. We're not asking women to date down at all. Not at all, right? No one's asking you to drop down and invite someone. But we're also saying the reality is, being that high up, you got lesser choice. So that's the reality of the situation. So if you got something to say, by all means, come on, jump on the thing. Let's have a conversation, you know, and say your point. No problem at all. Because the conversation, there was a point I was asked, why is it that no one asks a man to lower his standards? And the point is, because the system, women tend to date up. So asking a man to lower his standards, he normally dates a woman that's oftentimes not socially or economically higher than him. Most men don't want to date a woman who makes more than them, who's more socially, more status and more power than them. Most men don't want to date those kind of women. Now you can talk about there's some men that do that. We know those men, they're vampires. But a lot of the guys don't want to do that. You know this already. That is the system, right? So men don't want to date. Men oftentimes don't want to date women that earn more and have more social and more power in the society. They don't want to date those women. So in this instance, why? So tell a man to lower his standard. It's like, well, the higher he goes, the better for him, because he goes downwards when he's looking at who he's going to date. He's not looking up. So the higher you go, the less you got to look up to. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's why. Yeah. That's a fair point as well. Hopefully EC says especially black men should want to come up. That's part of our problem now. No, that's not your problem now. Your problem is you've become exceptional. This is the biggest problem I have. You do not out-earn men. You do not out-earn black men. Women, can we be very clear? The stats don't show you out-earning black men, meaning there are plenty of black men who earn a lot. The reality is the higher you go, because you date upwards, there is less to look at. There is less to look at. It's unfortunate, but that's the reality. And so the more women that tend to the more women that are coming into that space, women don't want to date down. And no beef. I'm not even telling you to date down. The more women that come into that space, the more they earn more, the more they gather more, the more they're not going to want to date down. So when I say pricing stuff out the market, that's what I mean by price stuff out the market as well. Okay. All right. So it's unfortunate. In that instance, Oh, okay. I see Jay. I'll bring you on in a second. Let's finish off the last of the comments as well. Let's finish that off. Okay. Mr. Annie said white men and others don't want us. Yeah. Precisely why your pool is small as well. It gets smaller again. That you're proving my point. You know what I mean? So I'm not mad at it. Again, I keep saying it. Like I think people are missing the point. They want to fight me as a proxy for these men that have been bad and have bad takes and are and assault and hurt men, women, and cuss them out. I'm not your guy. So whilst you're throwing some of these points, I'm looking at you like the points don't apply. There's it's not misogyny here, me telling you the basics of what the system is. You know what I mean? I'm not telling her to date down, so you can't throw that at me. Why do black men always want to? No, but I'm not telling you that. So the argument isn't with me. We're having a different type of argument. Okay. Anyway, listen, let me get Jay on first. So let's see if you guys can get into there. Again, nobody said she can't be classist. Listen to what we said very carefully. We said it's giving classist. Nobody has said she can't be classist. Let's not interpret into things. No one said she can't be. We're saying she is. Okay? That's what we're saying. But Jay is on a platform, so let me get Jay into the conversation. Jay, what are you telling me, baby?
I just came to swing with you. I didn't want you to be fighting alone all day, every day, brother. Okay, so
Day 3.
I know. So there was one comment I seen that's saying that she don't even date black men. So why address black men in your response video? Even if it's black men that's sitting here responding to you, your only response needs to be, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the men I date. But particularly In this case, she highlighted Black men. So if you're speaking life into Black men and you want them to be better, and I'm not saying you have to coddle them the way you speak to them, but there is a way to speak life in it, and that wasn't speaking life. Yes, we shouldn't accept mediocre grades as a parents from our children. We should be having them strive to be better in school if possible, but not everybody learns the same way. So if we don't even know our child's learning curve, I can't expect my child to do better. That's a whole different topic though. That's for the parents. So you're bringing up grades and all these things that they strive for. Sometimes grades don't even reflect the educational level. It's just a matter of, I don't get along with this teacher, so this teacher don't mess with me, so they give me this grade. It'd be some cases just like that. But we're talking about what you prefer in life is a man that makes more than you. You kind of want the soft life. That's fine and everything. You can have it. But the problem is your pool as a woman, when you get up to a certain platform, gets smaller and smaller and smaller. There's nothing you can do about it. You cannot sit here and argue men down, do better, be better, and all this, because if you don't pull your man up there with you, chances are you might not have anybody, because most of those men are taken by other women. Okay. So you're going to have to deal with a whole lot. Their pool is open. As a man, their pool is open up wide because they date down. So their chances of settling with you, and I use the word settling in their case, is very slim to none if you come with a particular attitude. That's what the whole conversation is about, is her attitude. When Iyanla asked her about would you date a bus driver, her face screwed up immediately. That's what she's missing, is how she reacted to that question. Now, it's not about her saying he has to be the owner of the bus driver and all that stuff. Your initial reaction was a hesitant pause with a screwed up face, instead of saying, yeah, if he has potential to go ahead and strive to be more, that'd be great. If he has a game plan on how he wants to move in life, yeah, I can date him. But it was a strong pause and a screwed face, followed by, well, if he is the head of the thing, all that attitude right there. All of that is what a lot of people are responding to. It's not the fact that you look down on him, or it comes off as you looking down, but it's not all of that to say. It's just more so how you carry on, because that means when you carry on like this, just to that question, if you was to get with that man, how the attitude would be. I read yesterday that the person that left her while they was in COVID to be with his children, he was Jewish or something like that. So that's not a Black man. That's definitely a man that usually comes from money. I can't guarantee it, but most Jews circulate their money within their family over time. So usually that's a man of money. And you couldn't persuade this man somehow to stay halfway with you and halfway with his kids, or with a full time with you and bring the kids over or whatever. There's an attitude underlining that he said, I'd rather go deal with my half grown children than spend time with this woman. Unfortunately, that's why we had a conversation on yesterday, later on in the evening, and we were talking about, oh, she's in her 40s and she shouldn't be having to wait. Well, then stop complaining. I'm sorry. I know y'all not gonna like this hard truth right now, but stop complaining. If you're not willing to work with your man to build him up to the man that you want him to be, then you have to wait around for the man you want. And chances are he's already taken, unalived, or don't even exist. And I'm not trying to be funny and I'm not trying to make it sound mean, but when you want a particular economical bracket of a man, you want him educated, you want him all this, you want this perfect specimen of a man that rarely exists. He a unicorn out there, And I'm not trying to talk down on men, but he's a unicorn because you want him to be just for you, only for you, cater to you 24/7, don't have no kids, have this great job. He's a socialite. He's all of these wonderful things, and he's just for me. Chances are he's not. He does not exist until he is late in his 60s, 70s, ready to retire from life, period, because he still has options to play around. This is what Kevin Samuels was trying to tell a lot of y'all, which I didn't want to hear. There are men that do want just one woman and all this stuff like that, but he also has his rules and his standards on how he wants his woman. And a lot of time when he's dealing with corporate world or whatever business thing that she got going on and has all these things, he don't want to come home to attitude. Because he deals with attitude all day from all the other people that he getting in the world. He don't want to come home to his woman attitude. He don't want to come home to her saying that she ain't gonna do this, ain't gonna do that. Trust me, when you deal with business owners, they don't want to deal with you as another client. I know people gonna want to fight me and all this stuff, but it is what it is. You can date outside your race all you want. It's the same mentality across the board because you're taking the same mentality across the board. So you're going to attract the same type of men. Period. Because this is what your energy is drawing in. Combative energy. And when you find people that don't want it, you're going to clash because you're used to it. You haven't changed. You just move your area code. You're the same you. If I'm a gang member and I just moved to a different city, trust and believe I'm still going to be a gang member in that city. I'm just going to have new battles to fight. That's all. And that's all she's doing. She's fighting new battles with different men, groups of men. The thing has to start with her. If she wants different, she has to be different. And that's all a lot of us are saying in the chat. A lot of us, that is Kojo, he's saying the same thing, that if she wants different types of men, she wants a specific type of men, you have to change your ways about you. You don't have to change your standards on what you want. You have to change your characteristics to attract the same characteristics you want out of that person. This is some hard truth that some of y'all don't want to believe. Y'all like to call me all type of things, but trust and believe, I can attract a man. I could be a Jeffrey all freaking day. And I know how to maintain that as well. But in corporate America, I have to be a certain type of way. When I get on this platform, I'm a certain type of way when I'm talking to you guys, because you guys don't like soft talk all the time. Y'all like it when she talk like this. She don't have attitude. She's just being arrogant. She's just holding her stance. Y'all like it when she does that. But it's a problem when it's addressed back to how you're behaving sometimes. And you don't see it. And it shows up into your relationships. And when somebody else calls it out, it's now a problem. That's all we're saying. Is just like when we call out Morgan. Morgan is a beautiful woman, but that attitude is just the same. But you can see it on Morgan because she don't have remorse when she do certain things and stuff. But Ebony is okay because what? Ebony sat there and admitted in the live yesterday when Kojo played back a podcast that she was the problem in her own marriage. But I seen people fighting. Oh, it was the man. It was this. It was that. But she said she was the problem. Y'all fight against the words that don't exist in her conversation. She stated she dated across the board. So this is not just a black man fight. All of a sudden today, now it's just a black man fight. When D's and C's grow across any race. Just stick to the truth that people are giving us sometimes. Stick to what they're saying and they're spelled sometimes, and then the truth is right there. You don't have to argue anything else. It doesn't have to be a debate about a whole bunch of stuff. It's she's saying these things. Somehow today is a black man's thing, but yesterday it wasn't. It was all across men. It was no fight against everybody else. I mean, It wasn't nothing against everybody else, but because she got called a gold digger, now we're using trigger words like coddling men and, I'm not gonna make a safe space for you to land and all this stuff like that. Y'all know that's red pill talk. Y'all ready? Red pill about to get all over this and start fighting, swinging all left and right. But I'm in traffic, so I'm just rambling. Sorry, y'all. Go ahead.
Oh, you said your piece, B. You said your piece. Anybody out there, if you want to join the conversation, the link's in the chat. I see a few people. Oh, maybe I haven't highlighted it. My bad. I apologize. I thought I pinned it. I pinned it now. Sorry, apologies. I thought I pinned it. I pinned it in the chat. So if you want to join the conversation, the link is now pinned in the chat. Okay. And so, we welcome conversation. We welcome different points of view. Etc. as well. So I just think this conversation, I love this conversation, and I think, I love the conversation because I think it does highlight attitudes when it comes to relationships and where we stand with them. Like I said, maybe back in the day, I would have been triggered by Ebony and be like, oh my God, look how much she said that. And really it's because I hadn't done the work within myself that I'm triggered. Do you know what I mean? But rather I'm looking at it and I'm trying to be more objective about what's being said. So I'm taking parts of what she said I agree with, and parts of the parts I don't agree with. And when I'm breaking things down and trying to present it to you guys, what I want you to be able to see is, let's not make the same mistakes, right? And see and miss certain things. And let me give an example. I've got someone behind Kathy, so I'll let her come on in a second or two. I think what Jay was just kind of alluding to is, yesterday I actually presented you the evidence. I gave you the evidence, right? I gave you the evidence about Ebony, specifically Ebony, her attitude, her behavior, her even admitting that she is the problem. And even when I admitted that, even when she admitted it out of her own two lips and said she was a problem, people still were coming at me trying to, you can't say this about women dating down. I was like, well, no, look, her issue is not just dating down. Her issue is she's got an attitude problem, right? And so I feel like sometimes people are fighting, but they're not fighting me. They're fighting what they think I'm going to say, and they've already stopped listening. You know what I mean? And so that you're not actually hearing what's being said. She said it out of her own lips. I did it this morning. This beginning of this live. I see you, Chairman, and Kathy behind the scenes. Beginning of the conversation when I said, no, she said all men, and people are fighting me. No, she said black men. No, it was on a black man show. No, it was evidently to black people. When she said out of her own mouth again, she said herself, it was all men. So I started realizing people are not fighting me. You're fighting rhetorics you believe that I'm about to say, and I haven't said it. So your beef isn't with me. And that tells me that that if you're fighting rhetorics that I haven't said, that I'm even agreeing with points of what you're saying, then the issue isn't with me saying what I was saying. The issue is with how you already perceive the opposite sex and what you think they're going to say to you, right? In these kind of conversations, which means we're already assuming ahead of time. So just want to slow it down a little bit for us so we can understand where we're going, right? I'm not trying to bash anybody. I want people to just take a bit of time and be like, okay, I hear it. I know why you might be frustrated. There have been some men that have been bad. There have been some men that want you to date down. There have been some men who have been wanting less for you women, and absolutely true. But let's take it case by case when we bring it up. Let's break it down, Let's deep the message what's being said here as well, you know what I mean? So we can get understanding. Someone said part 3. Absolutely, I'm a full-time YouTuber, so I can do this part 10 if I need to do it, because money's out here, baby. Okay, I'm a money maker, I'm a money shaker, and I'm also take this time to also bring conversation that we can talk about and we can heal from. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean, how many conversations do you have with friends about certain issues? Sometimes you have conversation over and over again because it's fun. I think it's quite fun. You know what I mean? So, but yeah, no. So we're having a good conversation, and this is why we're having this push and pull. Remember, I don't mind the push and pull, guys. As we're pushing and pulling, we're learning from one another, right? So long as we're respectful, no one cares. Like we happy for that. So we want to see more of this conversation. So push back, keep it respectful, but let's keep pushing back, of course. But let's also listen as well. All right. Kathy, welcome to the conversation.
Hi, good morning. Hi,
Good morning,
Kojo.
Kathy.
I'm a little bit shy, so bear with me.
No
So,
worries, sis. Take your time. You're
okay.
good.
So I think that Ebony's delivery was just, it was rude in this. I think her delivery was bad. I understood what she was saying, but it was a delivery. And I also think that the absence of a father figure is an issue for Ebony because personally for me, my father he's dropped out of, we're from the islands. Both my parents are from Antigua. My father came here to the United States. He's not a high school graduate. He doesn't have a college degree. However, he was able to establish himself, own his own medallion. Um, he earned a lot of money, made a comfortable lifestyle for me and my brother, my mother, owned properties and everything without a degree. He also helped pour into my mother, who had a master's, who was a teacher, educator. So I think the important thing is not about how much education they have, it's about the person's ability to utilize their skills to make a comfortable living. And for me personally, my father always encouraged for myself and my brother to become better and to seek more. So, like me, I'm a nurse. I own my own property. I'm a single mother. Never had to take my daughter's father to child support, but I work hard for what I have. And I would never ignore a blue collar guy, but I will pay attention to the red flags because what's important for me is to make sure that I have someone who's not going to take from me, but who's going to help us grow together. So if you don't have that potential, regardless of where you at in society, you're a no for me. But I can't look at you and say, well, you don't have a degree, you don't have this, you don't have what it takes to live the type of lifestyle I live. It's all about your ability to go harder. And I don't want to change how you're living, but I want you to be able to have your own desires in life and in the plan to achieve those goals that you are looking to accomplish. You know what I'm saying? So I think Ebony's delivery was poor, but I understood her. And I do think her attitude is an issue. I think her attitude and her approach with men, regardless of color or race, she needs to adjust that. That's what I wanted to say.
No, I appreciate it, Kathy as well, and shout out to Pops as well.
Well,
Holding it down and
they
his
both
job.
passed. They both my
Mm,
parents passed, but what I'm saying is that, and I think honestly, I learned more from my father. And most of the young guys on my block learned from my father because he always taught the young men, if you don't want to go to college, learn a trade. That's like number one thing in
mm,
the island. Learn a trade. My father he did everything. He was a plumber, he was an electrician, he was a mechanic, and he used all of his skills to obtain the lifestyle that he wanted. He left behind property, he left behind land, he left behind a lot of things, but he didn't have a degree. My mother had a degree, but my mother had a lifestyle because of my father. So because of knowing that, with my having that experience with my father, I don't look down at men because you can have a man who have a degree and and they're a couch potato. I worked with a nurse, an Irish nurse. Her husband was a professor. He went on disability and stopped working and put all the pressure on the wife. So it happens in all ethnic groups. So so it's just, to me, it's all about the person and how motivated are they? So I can't, only because of that experience with my father, I can't look down on any man, right? I'm going to see how much I can pour. If I can give them whatever I can to help uplift them, I'm going to give it. If it's not going to work, I'm not going to waste my time with someone who I can see it's not going to work. But I'm never going to look down at you because I saw it in my father as proof that you can become whatever you want. You just have to have a plan. You have to be determined. My father was out of the house every morning at 4 o'clock and back at 10. And my mother was okay with that. She worked, she went to college, and we had a comfortable life in New York City. And now I'm living comfortable in New Jersey. And I listen to my father, still single, but I'm happy and I'm comfortable. And I'm not settling.
No, and again, listen, love that, Kathy. And I think this is the reality of the conversation we're actually saying. For instance, Kathy, you've reached a particular echelon in your life now, right? Let's just throw a number out there because we're talking about numbers. Let's say you make 50K a year, right?
Mhm.
No, asking someone to be like, yeah, then date someone who makes 20K a year, it's a stretch. Right now, of course, I'm not going to ask you to do that because you've reached a certain level in life. What we call it a pleasure plateau, right? You reach a certain level where your life plateaus, and you don't want to no longer drop below that level, right? Like my life has plateaued to a particular level now. I don't want to drop it to a certain level, right? So in that instance, we can understand why, for instance, also too, Ebony doesn't want to drop her life down. If she makes, 100K, 200K, 300K a year, she don't want to drop down. And so again, we agree. We're not asking her to drop down. What we're saying is, and Kathy, you put it beautifully, I'm not going to turn my nose up at a man. It's the contemptible attitude that comes through. If you ask me, would I date someone who I'm not interested in? Let's say, for instance, somebody is not my physical type. What you won't hear is a contemptible attitude for the other party. You'll hear me say, it's not for me. Respectively, that's not my preference. Or I should say, that's not what I choose. I personally don't want that. Right? I don't want that. I want this type of woman. Right? Respectfully, I date black women. So unfortunately, that's what it is. So white women are not in my circumference. So, that's just what it is. I prefer this, and this is what I go for. And so, no one's asking to go down. What we're saying is, but what is your attitude? What is your attitude towards when someone asks you that? Someone says to me, would you date a white girl? And I'm contemptible with my energy. People pick up on it. And even that's slightly different because even that is apples and oranges in a sense. It's better to stay in a bracket. If somebody says a black woman who I don't find attractive, and I go, I don't find, you should be able to read my energy, be like, well, my distaste and my discoloration and the way I just speak about someone because I don't find them attractive should be a red flag. If my conversation about someone changes and you hear some disrespect just because I don't find it attractive, you should look at me differently. Okay, you should look at me differently. I'm not going to get mad at that. You know what I mean? Yes, legally, Leah, and we agree with you. So, like you said, I require a man who can keep me in a lifestyle. My physician, father, PhD, mother, raised me. Absolutely, and you should look for that. Again, right? No problem. Okay, no problem at all. Now, of course, there can be exceptions, but reality is you're not going to make exceptions, and that's okay. That is fully fine. No one's said that at all. You know what I mean? No one said that that's wrong. So you're absolutely fully fine. Question is, would you then now show contempt? If I said now, would you date a bus driver? Would you show the same contempt that we saw from our good sis? No. Hopefully not, you wouldn't. Any other thoughts, people, guys? I want to see if you guys want to jump in. You guys have a lot. Go for it, Jay.
Yeah, before I go, because I just really think, because I'm reading some of the comments in the chat, and I really think that's the point that they're missing is you do not have to talk down, belittle, be condescending in things that you don't like. You just don't like them. I don't have to speak negatively about things I don't like. I just don't like them. I don't want it. That's not what I want for my life. That's not my standards. But I don't have to make it seem like this is beneath me. If you guys was watching Ready to Love this season, Jeffrey's problem was because she made things seem beneath her. It wasn't because Jeffrey was this or she was nasty or anything like that. Her attitude made her seem like she was on a pedestal at all times and everybody else was beneath her. That's what most people had the issue with her about. That's what the issue with Ebony is that A bus driver is beneath her. This bus driver can be, we just heard a couple of people tell us yesterday that their parent or whatever that was a bus driver earned $1 million or whatever plus money in the course of their life. They probably even earned it before they retired from being a bus driver. But it's not about the money of it. It's that person, that status, that qualification, that job, particularly that career is beneath me. How dare you suggest I date a bus driver? How dare you suggest I date somebody of a service worker? That's the attitude that she has. That's what we're talking about. When you have this socialite attitude that, oh, I can't get into a certain club because of your job. That's what we're speaking about. It's not dating down. We're not telling you to change your standards, or if you have a particular number of bracket money wise that you want to be in, you can be in that. And guess what? You can actually find a whole bunch of people in a lot of fields in that bracket because they know how to work their craft enough to make that money. But all I'm saying is just because the title of what they're doing doesn't say, like, it doesn't say, oh, socialite, oh, head of this CEO, this, that, or whatever of this Fortune 500, but it's a CEO of a janitor office. You're going to turn your nose up to that person who is actually a millionaire because they're owning a business. They will potentially treat you the way that you want to be treated and everything plus. But because his title on his job says janitor somewhere, you'll turn your nose up to it. That's the part that we're trying to say. Like, you're turning your nose up to titles, not to the actual profession, not to the actual money that they're making, but the title of it. She had to change the title from bus driver to the owner of the bus driver to make it sound better. Well, he can be the owner and the driver. What's the difference? He's making his money. He's going to treat you good. He got characteristics that you need to have a healthy, successful relationship, marriage, and family. But you're going to turn him down because his label on his shirt said bus driver. Sometimes your angel, your blessing doesn't come in this package that you actually want it in. Open it up first before you sit here and dismiss it. That's all we're trying to say. You don't have to lower your standards. You don't have to sit here and go beneath your means and change your lifestyle for no man. You could stay single all you want. You can be happy alone. I would prefer being happy alone. Trust me. But I'm not going to sit here and turn my nose up to a man because his profession is not in the class or socialism status that I want him to be in. Yet I just really want the money part of him. I really want the good treatment of him. I really want the love from him. But his title deterred me from all of that. That's what's puzzling to me with a lot of this. Like, I'm gonna let y'all go. Y'all finish the conversation. Thank you, Kojo. I'll swing with y'all from the chats.
Appreciate it, Jay. Appreciate it. Brandon, welcome to the conversation.
What's happening? What's happening?
What's good, Captain? What's your thoughts?
I'll keep this short and succinct to just add male perspective to this. I believe that a lot of Black people in general, we come from areas where we're not as nurtured as we should have been, or we don't see healthy family structures. We don't see two parents in the house. So a lot of our expectations are basically what we believe, what we've been taught, or behaviors we've learned. I come from a single mother. I'm a Black dude that was from the ghetto, right? I spoke well, so people kind of called me corny when I was growing up, but I come from that environment. I only saw my mother in the house being the masculine figure. Fast forward to today, I'm in cybersecurity. I've been in customer success and sales for 15 years. I live in one of the richest areas in Florida called Winter Park, where per capita, the average house is about over $1 million, $2 million, right? So I climbed up in my career so high to the point where I'm the only Black face that I see. So the thing is this, to keep it streamlined, with a lot of relationships, the amount of mental bandwidth and political prowess that I've had to have to climb as high as I've came is difficult when you're in a relationship with somebody who is as masculine as you are. All right. In my world, in cybersecurity, it is a very European male dominated industry. And I am one of the few Black faces in the world in it. So that comes with a lot of income, but it also comes with, like, I don't think you guys understand the battles I have to fight to keep this up. I'm happy to have a woman to keep her lifestyle where it needs to be. I have a Tesla. I have an Aston Martin. I have 5 other cars. I have a big home in Winter Park, Florida, right? But to keep that up, there has to be a certain level of masculinity, a level of creating, you know, strategies in war, a lot of things I have to do. The last thing I want to do is come home and not have a steak on my dinner table, or not have a glass of whiskey so I can de-stress. I don't need round 2 when I get home. And unfortunately, a lot of our women, not saying all of them, but a lot of them don't know how to manage that man. They want what comes with the man, but to manage him is a little different. So I would say, yes, go after your high earning man. Yes, you know, try to go as high as you can go as far as attracting the best, because that's what's in your nature. However, you have to be prepared to nurture that man. That man does not care about your money. Let me tell y'all something. I probably make more money than a lot of people in this chat. I'm a top 3% earner. All right. Just naturally. Look up the average salary in cybersecurity and look me up on LinkedIn if you ever want to see. I repeat, I do not want to come home and have to fight my woman too. I'm sure Ebony K. Williams is a brilliant woman. She's obviously very good looking. She obviously has a lot, you know, going for her. But the man that she wants, not saying she wants me, but the man like me, the avatar like me, is going to have a hard time dealing with the masculine energy. And I'll leave it at that.
No, we appreciate it, Brandon. Obviously, you know, they're gonna want to. Okay, so obviously, I want to ask a question. So, how have you found dating out? Because we've got someone who said you're top 3%. We need to know, Brandon, how have you found dating? And this is going to be important to qualify, because this going to change the conversation. But let me ask that first question: how have you found dating? 2023, how you found it?
Okay, so I'm also 35 years old, so that's a caveat too. So I'm considered, like, you know, mid-30s. Dating, the landscape of dating is rather difficult, especially because I like my own women. I'm a man who wants to have Black children, want to be with a Black woman. I want a woman that looks like the women I was raised by. What I find is they love what comes with it. But then when, you know, I'm very traditional too. I'm a Christian, so I'm very traditional. I'm what people consider a conservative. So that's where the struggles come in, right? Because if I'm giving my traditional Christian values mixed with my conservative nature, a lot of people in our community don't really subscribe to that, and they don't like it. But what they don't understand is this: you have to look at what I do for a living. You have to look at where I'm at. We talk about class, right? You're probably going to lean more conservative when you're in a multi-billion-dollar industry and the average salary is about 400, 500K. You're also going to be more conservative if you're working with government officials, law enforcement, federal agents, some of the biggest companies in the world. So when I talk to people and I'm out, you know, it sounds nice on the surface, but then when it gets down to it, it's like, no, I don't want to deal with that. And I'm like, well, then you don't want the man that you really think you want. And then I'll just be by myself. And it's like, okay. And I'm not here for casual sex. So, you know, we kind of leave it at that. It's difficult. Yeah.
Don't go anywhere. We need you on this panel, Brandon.
Okay.
If you're not working too much, we need you. So I'm gonna come back to you, bro, please, because it's good to have a different perspective. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I appreciate it, bro. Thank you for dropping by as well. Miss Nicole 85, talk to me.
So I have to piggyback on what Brandon was saying. I know it's going to be a lot of women that are going to hate me in the chat.
You say you were coming from last time, sis?
I already know, because I saw how the chat said, well, then, sir, why aren't you married? He actually gave very, very specific answers as to why he was not married. He said he wants a Black woman. And I'm just saying this as someone who is a Black woman and is about to be attacked in the chat right now as we speak. We sometimes are a little difficult to deal with. I'm saying that as a Black woman who goes into a salon to get my hair done or goes into a Black business, and the first thing we say is, "What you want?" And that is the attitude that Ebony portrayed. It was disdain. So it's not the fact that I don't think that she should be dating a bus driver. This is just my personal opinion, because the respect factor would not be there. She would not have the respect for him. So that doesn't make sense. However, you do have to question this, right? She's a millionaire who is around other millionaire men. That is her pool. The question is, why isn't she being pursued by those millionaire men? And it does come down to attitude. I think we don't really realize it, but I'm saying this as somebody who missed out on, I'm married now, but I missed out on some really nice guys earlier on because of my attitude. And I talk about this all the time. I think sometimes we don't want to hear that in the real world, real money. I'm not talking about rappers. I'm not talking about people in entertainment, but people who have had to really work hard for their money. My husband has had to work really hard for his money, and he's about the top 5%. People always ask me, how were you able to get a 4-carat ring? How do you have this? How do you have that? Why do you? It is because I just bring my husband peace. And when I mean peace, I don't mean I'm his slave or I'm this. It is because I don't nag him. If I have a question, I ask it. That's that. If he doesn't want to answer it, fine. But typically, because I leave it alone, he comes back and gives me the answer. We don't allow some of our men to catch their breath when they're at home. We already know as Black women, we go out, we fight the world too when we go to work. Do you really want to come home and be bothered by somebody constantly criticizing you about what you don't do, what you should do better? That's a lot of times what we do. I grew up, my parents have been married for over 40 years. I love my parents. My mom has said multiple times, your father was a great provider. He paid every bill. He did this. He never cheated. This great man. And yet I would still hear my mom complain about things regarding my father. And I finally asked her maybe about a few months ago, why do you do this? Why are you complaining? You said he's a great man. He's this, he's that, everything perfect. And my mom is just saying, well, he could do this better. And I'm like, well, have you ever thought that maybe you're the problem? But it never comes to us like that. We don't realize that sometimes we create volatile situations or situations where people just don't want to be bothered with us. And we just have to ask ourselves, I'm not saying every woman is like this. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, okay, chocolate cheesecake. I'm not saying women can't complain. Just shut up. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying understand there is a different approach. I don't understand why we feel like it's either one extreme or the next. Nobody said shut up. We just said change the approach. Nobody is saying, Kojo just said, Jay just said, nobody's attacking her for not wanting the bus driver. Nobody is attacking her for not wanting the bus driver. We're just saying there is a way for you to chill and just say, you know what, that's not my cup of tea. I don't think that would be my cup of tea. That's it. I don't understand why. I'm sorry. This right here is why people don't want to be bothered with us. That's why. No, I did not say shut up. I never said shut up. I simply said We have to find another way to say the things that we want. That's it. Sorry, I just wanted to say that because I knew people were going to go from one extreme to the next. But that was my point. She just could have found another way to say, you know what, that's not my cup of tea. And leave it at that.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you, Nicole 85. I think, and again, just anybody who's new, come and join the conversation. I think what you're expressing here is really important as well, right? So we're talking in a way that we're trying to say that, hey, look, we're specifically homing in on Ebony, and there are other people who are like Ebony too, who the attitude is what sometimes can take someone out the room, similar to myself. And I hold myself accountable when I'm always saying that there's certain ways that even when I approach, you know, I've had it myself. I've had to apologize and do videos apology, like showing that this is not how I want to have discourse with the opposite sex, right? This is not how I want to have discourse with women. You know what I mean? Even if I'm frustrated, how do I come across? I try to make sure that I'm holding myself accountable about the way I do it, because attitude really is important, right? So if we're having discourse and having dialogue, how do I want to come across to the other party? So I love what you're discussing there as well, Nicole 85. Miss Ione, welcome. Talk to us. I know you had a different point of view, so it'd be good to hear your perspective. Talk to us.
Yes, absolutely. So from my perspective, you know, I didn't view Ebony as having an attitude necessarily towards, you know, the bus driver comment. I more so had her having kind of like an attitude towards Ayana, like, where are we going here? You know, that's how I read her, I guess you could say, attitude. And then I have a point to make regarding Nicole's comment about, you know, Ebony is in a pool with her pool of men are high value men, and she's still single, and it has to do with her attitude. And I disagree wholeheartedly and completely, right? Because in reality, let's be honest, right? In that pool of men that Ebony is in, they're not choosing her. They're not dating her, right? I think that's very clear that she is not their option, right? And then Kojo even said earlier in, you know, his commentary or the video that those high value men, they want to date lower. So why would they choose Ebony to date? You know what I mean? So I think it has nothing to do with her attitude. I just think it's unfortunate that a lot of Black women are in this situation where we reach a certain level and we're just not option one for a lot of men. And I think that's what it comes down to. And, you know, I also am in a situation where I've had a different situation, I guess, similarly to what Brandon had, where I am married to a man. You know, at the time when we got married, he was making half my salary, right? We were dating from when we were at college. He was making half my salary. And, you know, that caused a lot of strain in our relationship, because although I was already established, he was building himself up, right? So a lot of time that I would have liked or appreciated of putting into the relationship, we were putting it into making him better or making him progress in his career, right? So there were sacrifices that were made because, like I said, at that time, I was more established than he was. So, you know, understandably so, I do get where she's saying, or I get the mentality, like, you can't, yes, it's great to date a man and build him up, you know, because now my man, he's making more than I am, but that's not reality. That's not always the case. That's an exception, you know, and then you do have to make sacrifices. So, and that does cause a strain on your relationship. So I just want us to see different perspectives. Like, you know, it's not all rosy, all rosy, like, oh yeah, we're going to build up together. We're going to reach these levels together. No, you have to make sacrifices, and that does cause strain on your relationship. So, and that's just the reality.
Miss Ernie, don't go anywhere. I thank you for sharing that, and I appreciate that, right? So when you gave a great perspective as well. So when you married, how old were you at the time?
I was 30.
If you don't mind sharing.
30.
Okay.
But we were dating
so what made
for 10 years. About 10 years.
Oh, okay. Okay. So so you know each other since 20, basically, or since 30, you mean?
When we were in our 20s, we were dating, you know, then we made it I guess then we got a little bit more serious for like a couple years before we got married. So, you know, I was like 27, he was 28, you know, I was established in my career, making twice as much as he was, you know. And it was a lot. It took a toll on our relationship. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So for many years.
I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that from your perspective, because and you know, and you've heard, if you've followed me a little while, you know, I've already told you guys, I'm not even encouraging people to build like that. You know, if there's a major difference, I don't really want people to be doing it personally. It takes a lot of work, and a lot of, like you said, sacrifice. From your perspective, when you said it takes a lot of work and sacrifice, what do you mean by that? And you don't have to go into anything necessarily specific about your relationship, but just kind of give us a bit of understanding so people can understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, you know, like for instance, you know, when it comes to that's like, this is reality, you know, and that's why I kind of, you know, want us to escape what social media portrays or what you see on reality TV. In reality, right? Women are the ones buying homes. We are the ones making more money most of the time in the average society. This is what reality is, right? So for instance, in my situation, I bought our house, you know, I bought it. And then how we split up the bills was literally, you know, in proportion to how much we made. And that wasn't an issue for me because at the time, why would he pay more when I'm making so much more, you know? So it was never an issue. Finances was never an issue. It was more so like, okay, he wanted to progress to a certain level, right? And then he expressed to me that he wanted to progress to a certain level. And as his woman, I'm going to do whatever it takes to ensure he progresses to that level, right? So when it came to him studying for certain licenses, or when it came to him staying up late to do extra work, you know, I would have loved to watch TV and relax with him, but no, he had to stay up late to do work. Or, you know, I was ignored a lot of like time in our early relationship because again, like he was building himself up and I spent a lot of the early times kind of like by myself, or to some extent helping him write essays, or, you know, sacrificing a lot of like my wants and my needs to make sure he was able to reach the level that he is now. And it's hard because now he is still like working, and you know, he's very well established, but you know, because of the sacrifices I made in the beginning and not maybe making my wants and needs clear, like this is kind of the way our relationship is going now. He's working, and hey, now I'm like putting up my hand and saying, okay, you reach where you want to reach, like, can you spend a little bit more time with me? But you know, but because he's still like progressing, and I get it, you know, enjoying the, you know, obviously the benefits of, you know, him making all this extra money, it's like, you know, our kind of worlds are kind of different right now, you know, and that's what we're struggling with. So I just want us to make sure we're staying in reality. Social media is not reality. Women are not expecting men to pay all the bills, because that is not happening. Most of my friends bought their own homes. Most of my friends are making more than the men in their lives. Most of my friends are not aggressive. They don't have attitudes. This is the reality. So I just don't like when I hear, oh, women want men to make all this, or women want men to take care of all the bills. That's social media. That's not reality. It's just not. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that point you made, because I think we've made that point before, right? About social media is not a real place, and that most people on social media will tell you about their idealistic needs, which is also, I think, a part of the Ebony conversation, though, right? Because the reality is the idealistic partner will be a millionaire who earns far more than she does and is this amazing guy, right? But not everyone has that particular instance. That's not everybody's particular story. And so with this situation with Ebony, like you said, some people have even had to, and of course you were younger, so it's not the same in the same instance. She's at 40, she's gonna be looking for men that are far more established. So, you know, it's gonna be slightly different. But I think again, it goes back to that conversation, and I think what Nicole was kind of sharing is, and where I did a kind of agree with her, and I present what you were kind of saying in a sense, which is that yes, it's not only solely her attitude. Look, she has been married before, so clearly she can get married. She's a good-looking woman, so her issue is never going to be attracting a man, right? Her issue is going to be maintaining that relationship. And that's why I was presenting to the audience saying about the attitude, because when that conversation came up, her disdain came up. And so if that disdain came, then I went back and did research and I added it to show you where this disdain is coming from. And actually, that's the issue. The issue isn't necessarily just not the bus driver. The bus driver thing, I think we all can agree on this panel. I don't think anyone's asking to date a bus driver. If you earn too much money, like, I'm not asking you to date a bus driver. I'm not even asking Brandon to date a McDonald's girl. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't even expect that, you know?
I would.
So
I would happily.
He would happily, see? He would do it, right? Because men and women, obviously, our rules are different. So, and again, I think Brandon's speaking to my point earlier on as well about our rules are different. But again, it's about, okay, when we heard what she said, what did she say to us? And that's the part I'm trying to shake the audience into and get them to understand. Ladies, please listen to me. I'm not even here batting you over the head talking about it's all black women. I'm telling you that some people, their attitude is keeping them out of a relationship. You can get in one. I don't think there's a woman here that will tell you they can't get a man. They can get one. It's a type of man they want to get, right? And then if you get that type of man, what keeps you in that relationship? Attitude is going to be one of those things that are going to cause a tension between yourself and that person. Now, Miss Oni, let me ask you this final question. If would you describe you looking down at your husband at the time when he didn't make as much money as you?
I would say, was I? No, I wasn't looking down. I was more so looking down, for instance, right? If I knew he had an exam or
Okay.
something that he should be studying for, and I saw him laying on the couch watching TV, I more so, I wouldn't say looking down, but I more so kind of developed some type of resentment, you know, because
That's real.
at that time, it's like, wait, you take so much time, like take this more seriously because you're taking a lot of time of us being in a relationship together and enjoying the benefits of being in a relationship. You know, I'm making all these sacrifices and you're laying around watching TV on times when I know you should be studying. And so, you know, the resentment did happen. And like I said, and that's why I said it's not a perfect situation that I was in. And like, you know, I ended up in a good situation because, like I said, obviously now he's making more money than I am. So, you know, there is some benefit there. But to get there, it did take a toll. And I just want us to be realistic about what actually is going on in the real world. And that's what I have to say. And then I also wanted to ask you a question, Kojo. Like in your group of women friends, you know, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure if you were dating right now, right? I'm pretty sure you most likely wouldn't be dating down. You would be dating women that is at your level or above, right? Because I'm sure women in your pool, which probably are mostly Black women, probably earn around the same amount, or if not more than you. So the whole idea that men date down, I'm talking about the average man. I'm not talking about the athletes and the football players. I'm talking about the average population of men. Most of the time, you are dating up, and that's what it is, either at your level or you're dating up. I'm not talking about, you know, the 500,000ers or the millionaires. I'm talking about the regular, you know, $60,000 to $200,000 salary, or even lower. So, I don't know where everyone lives.
No. First of all, I appreciate the conversation and the question as well. So, you know, and I thank you for being honest and sharing your heart as well. I genuinely do appreciate it because it gives us better insight. So I think, in regards to answering the question, what you said about myself, is, you know, me personally, I would, people that are around women that are around me, you know, some of them are at my level and some earn considerably more. There are because I know some YouTubers as well. So there's some YouTubers and some people who earn considerably more. But the majority of people are like you said, are at my level, or they don't earn as much. Like, if I'm honest with you, like, they don't, you know. So, and I'm not mad at that, you know, in any sense of the word. I think what's intriguing about the situation when it comes to that scenario is that, and it'll tie into what I'm going to answer the question twice as well. I'm not going to date someone who is above, and I'll tell you why. Because of what you just said, Miss Ione, which is fair. I've been saying this for a long time about the reason. It's a two-pronged attack. That reason why men don't date up. Women think it's only because men are insecure. It's not, because women also have also an energy towards us when we're not at their level. and you kind of mentioned it, right? So it was in, as you said, it's normal. And I'm not I'm barraging you for this. It's normal as to why I said I would never date a woman that's considerably above myself. Because what you mentioned was, for instance, if I've got an exam, but you see me lying on the couch and I'm just chilling, or maybe I'm just not even doing anything, I'm just like being lazy, not even being lazy, that's the wrong word. I'm just relaxing. Just relaxing. And like you said, I've got an exam. What is your first instance? Your first instance now is that, why is his ass not getting? He knows he's got things to do. So personally, I said this yesterday, I wouldn't do it because I know that when someone tries to put a timeline on when I should be successful, we are going to have issues. So it's a two-pronged thing, because there are men that are insecure when they date upwards, and there are women too who are bringing an energy downwards towards that man because they're looking at him going, why aren't you at this level? Which then goes back to proving the point I said about women. Women want to date up. They don't want to date down. They want to date up. They want their man to take care of them financially, physically, emotionally, mentally. They want the man that is bigger, bolder, better than them, because that creates a safety around them. So naturally, even yourself, you want to date up. It's not that you're bad for it. It's just a natural tendency of both men and women. And so I would never ask for Ebony again to date down, because and when we say date down, there's a considerable gap between you financially, and you know, I wouldn't ask for that. But you know, and I wouldn't ask for the men. I'll tell the men, listen, you shouldn't be dating up either, because you're going to realize that there's probably going to be some issues in a relationship that are going to be very hard to bypass going forward. Do you want to respond to that quickly before I let Brandon go? Just quickly respond to that quickly.
No, I think I get it. And what you were saying was that you're one. I see. I think we're talking about two different things, right? Because I'm talking about reality, right? And then you're talking about what people want. So, and again, what I'm just speaking from a realistic perspective, and a realistic perspective is that most of the time, you know, women are, I guess, dating down, or, you know, going back to my question that I asked you, your peers or people in your pool, you guys earn around the same amount, right? So, or sometimes more. I just personally, Kojo, I don't think you'll be dating someone who is earning maybe half as much as you, or maybe doesn't have that ambition that you have, regardless of maybe how much they're earning. I'm pretty sure you're going to be dating someone with a certain level of ambition, and that's just my point. So I doubt you'll be dating significantly down either. So that's really, yeah.
And so I would say, before you go, Brandon, I'm gonna let you go after this. So what I would say is that I would disagree here, and this is the funny thing, right? So I'm in a place where, and this is between myself and you, I'll share with you guys. I've had a conversation with my dad, and then I think I've shared this before, being on a plane and talking to a white woman, actually talking about her experience and her marriage. And I would say that it really depends on where I am financially. Right? Where I'm now, I'm comfortable. I could buy a house, I could pay off the house, and you wouldn't have to contribute anything. At that point, I need not think about what you bring to the table financially.
Okay.
Right?
Okay. Yeah,
do you know what I'm saying? Right? But if you spoke to me 3 years ago, would have a completely different conversation, because financially where I was, I would actually need you alongside me. No, I had savings and everything like that, but I would need you alongside me. Therefore, the kind of partner I'd be looking at would be somebody who also got the same mindset in terms of building up. Now, what I may be looking for, like you, and I agree with you here, is that I don't need your money, but maybe I do need your insight. Like sometimes I speak to my boys and I tell them, listen, bro, you know, I look at your wives and I go, I see why you married them, because her insight is what's invaluable. It's not her money, it's her mindset. The way she looks at life is it's so beneficial, because what you're already building, the way she sees things, crazy. I can see how she's going to add to that. So for me personally, and maybe Brandon will speak to this as well, financially, where I am now, I could buy a house, I could supply it, I could do this, I'd pay all the bills, and you'd have nothing to have to pay for. The only thing we'll do is our lifestyle upkeep. You know what I mean? We'll go on holidays. Maybe you want to contribute. I say, cool.
Wait, Kojo. That's what I wanted. Just one more thing before Brandon speaks. But then on other commentary that you have, right? You also say you appreciate the woman that can take you out for a nice, expensive luxury meal, or take you out on a nice luxury holiday, right? So
Yes,
you gotta, you know, let's be consistent here on what you want, right? Because this sounds like you saying that, yeah, you would love to take care of your woman, but then on the same another breath, you also would treasure a woman that can show you those other ends too, right? Like, have you said that
I
before
agree.
in
I would
several
treasure,
sense?
but that's not what I said I wanted. I said I would
Okay,
treasure.
okay,
I would appreciate. I've said it. I've said, and you're right. I've said it several times where I've said I
okay.
appreciate when a woman has done something for me. I would definitely appreciate it. Is that necessarily what I want in a relationship? And I'm not saying I don't want you to contribute at all, in terms of like, no, sorry, not to contribute, in terms of buying things or whatever, whatever. No, not that part. What I'm talking about is when I come into what I want, I'm now at a financial place where I don't necessarily need that aspect. So my needs from the opposite sex are completely changed for me. So now I'm more focused on what is the woman's insights. So for me personally, right, that's what I look at. How can I build? Meaning, it's not your money that's important to me now. What's important to me is the mindset, it's the intellect. Does she have a level of wisdom that can aid me in what I'm already building? Because before this, I wasn't building anything per se. I was just doing my job. I was, quote unquote, just doing a normal 9 to 5. So at that point, I needed somebody who also understood that, was a 9 to 5 kind of person too. And that's what we're doing. But now I have a vision and what I'm building. I need somebody who sees and goes, coach, look, this is what I can offer you. I can see this, this, and this. That's what I need. I don't need your money at that point now. So it's changed because of my financial position has changed. So my needs have completely changed in that instance. So yes, I'll be happy. Listen, you want to buy a holiday? Fantastic. I will never say no. And I would appreciate it. You know what I mean? When I said that, I meant in the sense of I don't want a woman that tries to take advantage of me. I don't mind if you do a little thing here, not a problem at all. But personally, from this perspective, where I'm financially, I would want someone who's got an intellect and an insight, because I'm already building. I just need you to just be able to see certain things. I'm like, yeah, that needs to change, coach, or I can see that can be improved, or you know what, I see that, coach. Let's add on to that. That's what I sense would need. If I can get Brandon in real quick. Brandon, what were you going to say?
Yeah. Just real quick. I need to debunk some of this. Okay. So Miss Ayani, I don't want to mispronounce your name, but I understand what you're saying about the real world, but maybe in the Black community, in a lot of your situations that you see, women may outpace men, but in the bigger game, men outpace women. Is not even close. All right. Men still earn women in STEM. Okay. Men overwhelmingly dominate the tech field. In America, in the United States, there are 368 million Americans. There are only 28 million of those Americans that are millionaires. A lot of them are not women. Okay. So in our community, sometimes the women do outpace the men, but in the grand scheme of things, men outpace women, and it's not even close. I would also argue that Black men are coming up. 60% of us are in America's middle class. So I heard you say average salaries outside of football and entertainment between 60 and 200,000. Miss Ayani, $200,000 in American dollars is not normal. That is not normal. There are very few people in this chat that are making that. $200,000 a year is about $16,000 a month. That puts you in the top 5 to 10% of earners globally, if we're talking about US dollars. Okay. So we need to debunk this whole thing that women are outpacing men. That's not happening. Are you buying a house? Sure. Do you have a job, or are you some kind of entrepreneur? Sure. But a lot of female entrepreneurs are sole proprietary entrepreneurs, meaning that they're the only ones running it, and they have a 90% fail rate. Let's just talk about the numbers. Most billionaires, most people in tech are men. Most people who build are men. Okay. The highest earning people in the United States are men. And Black men are coming up, Black men such as myself. There's very few people that I've seen around me and my friends that make even close to what we make. Most of the women that I know are coming to me for that advice, are coming to me for that aid. I got women calling me all the time like, Brandon, I need to borrow one of your cars. My car broke down. I'm in trouble. All right. So I just want to debunk that whole thing. Black men are coming up. And in our community, for a while, we've always been against each other. I believe if we come together, we can see that the real battle out here is not against one another, but it's against the very things that are trying to tie us down. And if we continue this war of, well, I make more than you, and I make more than you, and I make more than you, which is masculine energy, then we will continue to fail, which goes into my very last point, and I'll let the other women go. Yes, I would absolutely date the Starbucks barista or the woman at McDonald's. You know why? Because I know that my money is our money and her money is her money. Nothing gets my manly juices going about your degree or about your money. You know why? Because if we get divorced, you're taking half of what I have. If me and you were married, the judge is going to look at me and say, Brandon, you make $500,000 a year, sir. She only makes $150K. She has to have the same lifestyle that she had when she was with you. So this is what you're going to do, Mr. Brandon. You're going to write her a check for half of what you got, and you're going to go move into an apartment. Oh, and she keeps your house too. So let's just keep it real. In the United States, most marriages end in divorce. Most women initiate those divorces. And in the court system, men have to give up most of their income to the woman. All right? So next time you see your man laying down, or, you know, he's kind of being lazy in your eyes, or not even that, you know, he's kind of distressing, let him do it. You know why? Because if he's the man you say he is, and he's finally at the point where he's earning a bunch of money, that man has fought so many wars, have dropped so much blood, have cried so many tears to get to that level, that at some point in time, he just needs to sit down and listen to his own thoughts. And guess what? He unfortunately can't spend a lot of time with you, because we know that we have to maintain this lifestyle because of the very conversations we're having now and Ebony K. Williams had. We're already looked down upon because we have your skin. We share your skin. We're already looked down upon because of all the things we went through. The last thing we need is to come home and have to hear you say, why are you taking a nap? Why aren't you spending time with me? Why aren't you laying down? How about this? Why don't the next time you see that say, honey, are there any wars you're fighting that I should know about? Are there any political battles you're fighting? How's your brain? Is it in a good place? Do you still want to be on Earth? Like, the suicide rates, men are dominating in that, right? There's guys who are rich, successful, that are jumping out of buildings, unfortunately. And I'm sorry if I'm using language against YouTube, but this is happening. There are men who are married who are ending their life because they can't take the stress. So when I say that I would go with the girl at McDonald's, I believe I would do it because I don't care about a woman's money. I just want someone to pour me a drink, talk to me about, you know, life, be my peace, be someone I can lean on when I'm feeling down, when I'm fighting a war, or I'm going for that promotion, or I want to hit my $2 million goal, or I'm starting another business. Just be there to ask questions, right? Let me give the direction. Let you be that political, maybe in the person who has the insight, but let me kind of lead and you follow me. And that's it. Yeah, I have a good one.
Yeah, just real quickly.
Go for it, Miss Anna. Yeah,
Brandon.
go for it.
I think we've said the same thing, right? I just said to you that my husband now, he's Black and he now earns more than me, right? So we just are kind of stating that you just said the same thing I said, right? Maybe what I should have said, and maybe I should have clarified from my perspective, right? And I could only speak for people in my circle, right? And so that's really who I can refer back to. Maybe I should have said women maybe establish themselves before men do, right? And just from what my experience is, and then from what I see, you know, we're the ones that, you know, are usually, you know, we have like a to-do list, or we make sure we have like we have a plan in place, right, when it comes to what we want, what we expect in a few years, whereas men may not be on that same timeline we are. So I think the timelines may be different. But what I'm saying is, I think I agree with you in that, you know, eventually men do earn more than women, but I think what I meant to say was, it just takes, women are just a little bit more established before men get to be that at that established level. So maybe that's what it is. Or if you don't agree, that's fine as well. But that's just one more point that I wanted to make.
I don't, but let the man make the plan.
Yeah.
I get you have a plan. I get you have expectations. But if you're with a man and you give him your body, your time, your commitment in a relationship with him, then that has to come with trust. And I would say follow his plan. And if you don't agree with the plan, absolutely be out. You know, don't let the door hit you with a good Lord split you. Get out of there fast and in a hurry. But if you're with a man and you gave him a relationship, and even more, if you give him your hand in marriage and a child and all the things that come with it, then you just signed up to get on his program and trust his plan. I'll leave you
Miss
with
Amy,
that.
do you want to respond to
Have a
that?
good one, beautiful people.
No, I mean, again, we have different point of views, right? Because I've walked a different life than probably many here, where I've earned more. I cook, I clean, I do it all. I face my own battles that Black men are not aware of, that
I
Black
agree.
women face on an everyday basis. I'm in the corporate world where I constantly have to struggle with, okay, should I speak up now or should I hold back? Should I raise my hand now? Is that guy flirting with me? Should I, take it to HR? It's like a lot of, and then still have to come home, go to the gym, make sure I look good, cook, clean. There's just a lot of stuff that, I get Black men have their own
Silent
battles to
battle.
fight, but I feel like Black women, we also have a lot of battles that we fight internally that we can't really express either. So that's where I'll end, and just,
I love that, man.
with the panel other. Yeah.
No, Miss Annie. Thank you for sharing. Listen, thank you for sharing that. You've been rocking me for a little while, so I appreciate you and your honesty, because I think this, of course, we've kind of shifted away from the main conversation, but I think this is valuable points discussing, because what you're discussing at this point in time now is the maintenance of the relationship, which is often that what we're talking about on the channel, about how attaining something is one thing, but then there is maintenance. And this applies for both parties, both men and women, whether we're leading, whether we're following. There is battles that are going to be faced by both parties. And in this instance, there's conversations that need to be had by both to let them know, this is what I need from you at this point in time, and needs shift and change as we go through seasons as well. So this is helpful to understand that point of view, Miss Ione, as well. And thank you for sharing that. I actually do appreciate you contributing personal experience, and I think it helps me to see in a different light as well. So thank you for sharing that as well. All right, Epiphany, we are talking about, obviously, Ebony K. Williams and her situation. How you doing, babe? Talk to us. What's your thoughts?
Okay, I'm pausing this thing so I can get to business. Um, so I found interesting, just to start off, was that Brandon, he kind of comes off like he has a chip on his shoulder, and no one said that might be why he's single and why he isn't married. But when it's Black women, that if we talk even in a certain cadence, it's like, okay, that's why you're single. That's the thing right there. And Black men don't even have like a reputation of being people that are easygoing, laid back. Like, I'm not even trying. I'm not even going there. But they don't have they have a reputation of being aggressive, of being a super predator. Like being that type of people. But Black women never cite that. Anytime when we're talking about relationships, we never cite that as a point of contention. We never cite that as why we aren't dating them. We give them practical goals: earn a higher income, attain education. And Kojo, this is interesting coming from you too, because I think you're African, I think you're Nigerian, I'm not sure.
I'm Ghanaian, but go for it.
Ghanaian. And from what the industry I work in, I've worked with a lot of Ghanaians, I've worked with a lot of Nigerian men, and they're very focused on education, attainment, earning potential. They're very focused on bettering their lives and being leaders to their communities and their families. Being someone that's aspirational to their families. And so when it comes to Ebony's talking point, that's just to get back to the beginning point, about not wanting to date a bus driver, and then her citing that it's because she wants to date the owner of the company. She wants to date someone that has that type of ambition. I don't think I think if Black men, especially American Black men, were taught that on a day-to-day basis, you'd see our community cultivate, and there would be a betterment in our community that we say that we claim that we're looking for. And I'm one of those people, like, I'm like low-key like democratic socialist, although I work in finance. Like, I've been an analyst, I've been an advisor, I've done like everything. And I'm democratic socialist still, but like and I believe service workers, like bus drivers, these are the people that are the driving force of the economy. So we never should dismiss them. We never should act like they're beneath us. But this is a common thing. And I work with high net worth clients only. And this is a common thing for people that are millionaires. This is a common thing for anyone that's upwardly mobile. If I'm a therapist, I want to date a doctor. Or if I'm like a PhD therapist, I should say, I would want to date a doctor. I want to date someone that we can use our incomes and combine them and create a life for ourselves and our children that protects them from capitalism in a way, you know, like protects them from the society that we've created that makes it so that if you're at the bottom, like Black Americans are, and this is coming from someone that is a Caribbean American, I'm Jamaican American, but I've seen what the government has been complicit in this country, and I know that we're Jamaican Americans are treated. That's a whole different conversation. But Black Americans have been put at the bottom, and this was a systemic thing that took place in this country. And for us to get out of that is for us to have economic attainment and academic attainment. And this is not something that's a crazy point to make. This is a very common point. This is common in your culture too, Kojo. I'm sure of it. That you should be high achieving when it comes to what you're doing for your community, because your family is just a microcosm of the community at large. And I just found it quite interesting how we let Brandon kind of admonish Black women for our attitudes when, number one, that's not even topic of discussion at this point in time. We were talking about the conversation with Ebony and what she said. And no one said that was the reason why he was single. I was like waiting for it because I'm like, oh my gosh, we're having this whole conversation at like how is no one catching the bitter irony that if Ebony's bad attitude is where she is, why is that not the same for Brandon? And I find these talking points consistently in this discussion. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, appreciate that. Thank you, Epiphany. And maybe we can have a conversation as well, just so we can clarify some things. So when you said you were surprised because I was African of descent, what did you actually necessarily mean by that? Just because we don't miss each other on that point.
No, I meant that in like the most positive way, like possible. Like I admire like Ghanaians, I admire Nigerians, I admire people that could come from adversity and they can become the most educated group, one of the highest earning groups in America in a generation or two. Like these people deserve their flowers because they work for their flowers. You get what I'm saying? And to be a leader, it's not given to you. Like to be the leader of a community, that's not handed to you. You have to show that you're worth that title. And just to be like Ebony's talking point about not dating the bus driver, this kind of propaganda that Black women are not dating the poorest men when we consistently date the poorest men and are also told that we should choose better because we keep dating them. It's I don't know. I just find like there's two people are just talking out of two sides of their necks.
Okay, so but who on this panel or who on this channel? Because this is what I was saying earlier on. I feel like we're addressing points that are not addressed on this panel or this conversation. Because who can you say has said that she should date a bus driver?
I kind of feel like the pushback as a general matter, the pushback that she's receiving is because of that talking point and not specifically because she was having this quote unquote attitude. I didn't see an attitude. I saw a woman that was kind of having a conversation with another woman and being gaslit a little bit, but that was my opinion. Your opinion is that she had an attitude. I'm looking at what was said, and what was said, there was nothing wrong with what was said.
But what was said from my side? Because it is the only people I've been on this panel really have spoken about anything is myself and Jay, but mostly me. So what have I said? Because I kept on repeating several times that she shouldn't have to date a bus driver. So what part of it do you disagree with so we can get that common ground? I feel
like that's what you're saying, and that's what you can, that's what you're saying. But I kind of feel like that's the root of the issue. And then I kind of feel like the whole adding in the attitude part to the conversation, I kind of feel like that was unnecessary because she's dated high earners. She's been married. Like, come on, this is not an issue of her attitude. Like, she's been married, she's been divorced, she's dated millionaires. She, you know what I'm saying? Like, why is this even a talking point?
Okay. So let me make it very clear again so that we don't miss each other. Never have I said she should date down, and the evidence is there, so we can check it. So first and foremost, I'm not saying she should date down. I've not told anyone to date down. You know what I mean? And actually, my conversation with Miss Ione proves that. I said I don't even want men doing it, dating up, because there's problems with it too. So the dating down issue is, I think this conversation has proven the exact thing I was talking about when I was talking about earlier on about how people are fighting a point that's not being made on this channel. If the issue you have is not with me, it's with maybe or other people have said,
Other
because I've
panelists did make that point, though. I mean, I'm
and
talking to
I
you,
asked you
and
to
as well as
quote
the
it.
other panelists. You're addressing me, but I'm talking to you as well as other panelists that were up there that you actually did not have anything to say when they were actually being very, very contentious towards Black women. But okay.
So now you've shifted the goalpost, because now you've shifted the goalpost to be about being contentious about Black women. That's not the conversation. What you addressed first and foremost when you started off was saying, I have made it clear that I'm saying that we're talking about her dating down. And I've said, no, I've told her not to do that. We made it very clear that's not what we said. So now you've shifted the goalpost to being about how we now have made it contentious about Black women when it hasn't, right? That's not been the issue. I've made it very clear about my position, and I've said it several times so that nobody misses us, right? So that nobody misses where we're going from, right? So my point I'm trying to get you to understand here is that when we first started saying this, okay, all right, I said explicitly, not about dating down. It's about how she reacted to that question that Anyala actually said in the first place. I explicitly made that point, and I said about how her face even contorted, and then she even rolled her eyes up and down, hearing the question and wanted her to repeat it a second time. And I said that energy is coming from a contemptible spirit. When you have contempt for when someone's saying something about a particular issue, it came through. And then I did a second video yesterday by going back into bringing the background stuff. To bring the background stuff, right? And I said, hey, look, guys, just to prove my point about the attitude, let's look at the evidence. I brought in the fact that her about the podcast. I brought in how she spoke about some of her issues and the fact that the father figure is a huge issue. In fact, I even put blame on the men. And I did a whole live. The live is titled Black Men, I Blame You for This Bus Driver Situation. I made sure that even to let them know that you're not free from the situation, because you are part of the equation and the problem, because she grew up without a father figure. So, and we did a whole breakdown to make sure everyone understood where we're coming from, right? So we get a good, deep insight into why she is the way she is. And then we spoke about how her attitude came across, because she even told us she herself was a problem out of her own mouth. She said it. And then she went on to say the reason why her last relationship didn't work off for the last 3 years that she was in, the whole reason why it didn't work is because towards the end, when he chose his kids over her in terms of quarantine, she said, I can't do it. So what I've been discussing, and even today when we started, I kept on saying it again. No, we're not asking women to date down. I don't agree with them dating down. We don't want them to date down. We don't want them to date down because it doesn't work if there's a considerable gap. What we're talking about is her energy and her contemptibility, that attitude. So then I focus on saying what gets you in the room is her beauty. It will always get her in the room. Her talent will get her in the room. But what will get you out of the rooms in terms of dating will be the attitude, right? And it comes through when you're dating, when you're having relationships, when you're in marriage, it will come through. So that's why I kept on pressing upon it, because I was saying, I don't want anyone to misinterpret what I've said. So I wanted to make it very clear. That's why I challenged you, Epiphany, and said, what did I actually say? And I feel like, and you can correct me, I feel like you've been addressing in your points things that I've not said, because I've intentionally kept on saying it. And if you go through the other comments on my other videos I've done on this the last 2 days, they will tell you, Kojo kept on saying, don't date down, don't date down, don't date down. So I don't know if that makes sense. If not, let's have that conversation, because I really want to be able to bring some understanding to this, to what you're seeing as well, you know?
Yeah. Okay. No, and I did watch earlier on the stream. I didn't watch the other video that you did about, like, I guess you did a breakdown on Ebony, but I didn't watch that one. But I did watch the first video, and then I jumped on the stream earlier this morning and saw that you you said that there's nothing. You said that you wouldn't date up. I did hear that you said that you wouldn't
Yes.
yourself
Yeah.
date up. And then you said that you didn't think that it was okay. Like you think it's okay that she doesn't want to date a bus driver and those kind of things.
Yeah.
And you believe that the issue that's happening with her dating life is her attitude. And then Brandon came onto the panel and he displayed very clear signs of being attitudinal. And you didn't mention to him. So I just wanted the reasoning. It just made me feel like the reasoning wasn't throughout for both genders, because that wasn't a point that was brought up.
Okay.
Maybe it's just me that, looked at him as
No.
attitudinal, and that was just my opinion. I saw some other women in the chat think the same thing about him in the same vein. But yeah, that was the only reason why I kind of was just like, well, if it's attitude is a thing, and this man has 10 cars, like he says, and he's an analyst, and he's the president of the United States of America, and he still cannot get a girl to marry him, and especially with the things that he was saying up here about us having being hard to deal with, hard to talk to. He needs us to basically be quiet and make a mistake when he gets home. No one said anything to that. And I just found that to be very interesting, because that in itself is probably the reason why he's single. And just in the way that Ebony can contort her face, and we can determine that that's why she's single, although she's been married and she's been in relationships before. I feel if Brandon has Aston Martin, he said Aston Martin, that's a very expensive car, by the way. And he said he had all these great things. He lives in the best communities of Florida. If we can look at one side and say, well, she contorted her face, so it's her attitude, although she's had successful relationships in the past, and Brandon, who from his own mouth has not had one successful marriage or Christian woman or whatever. And if you're Christian too, that it should be way easier for him to find someone, because in the church, everyone wants to get married. Well, you got some money and you're a Christian and you align with my values, I want to marry you today. So what is he doing wrong? But that talking point was just not something that was on both genders. And I feel like your audience consists of many Black women. So I thought that you would, jump in just to even say, well, what do you do? Like, what's going on with you? Just like you did with Ebony, but that wasn't done. And yeah, so that's the only reason why, like, I actually like you as a content creator. I think you're really cool. Like, you make some really dope videos and all that kind of stuff. But like, it was just that part that I kind of was confused. And I've never gotten on. That's the only reason why I got on. So.
Well, no problem at all. So I think I understand what you're saying now, right? So I understand what you're saying in that instance, right? So we're pivoting now, right, to this instance. Okay. So in terms of obviously Brandon, if you want my opinion on Brandon, I can give my opinion on Brandon. That's not a problem at all, right? But he was stating his preferences as to what he wants in the conversation. I was asking him questions back and forth as to his opinion. Now, I can also state my opinion on also Miss Ione, but we'll have a conversation. They're not on the chopping block like Ebony Williams, because they haven't done a video which we're discussing. The title is about Ebony. So when we were talking, I haven't pushed anybody back.
Ione for a little,
hold on,
second. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to cut you. I'm so sorry.
That's right. I didn't talk about anything about her attitude or anything like that per se. That was a conversation between herself and the gentleman. What she asked me and I asked her was, what's your experience? Thank you for sharing your experience, Ms. Ione, because you know what? You give us an insight into how you dealt with your husband. Then she asked me questions about myself and in terms of what my circle is and would I date people who are a higher echelon, and we had a really good conversation. No judgment to her, no judgment to him. And I said, conclusionally, using her point, I said, me personally, this is why I personally wouldn't date up, because what you explained proves the point I was trying to make, which is when we date up, there's going to be some contention that way. So it would be wrong for me to date up because I can see what's going to happen. There was no judgment on Miss Ione, and there was no judgment on a gentleman. But let's just take it your perspective and what you said, right? And say, you know what? If I didn't check him, right? And let's say I have a blind spot, then I have a blind spot, right? If we go by that, then I can say, well, I have a blind spot. Then I should have checked him on him saying about the things that he said as to why he's single. But the reality was, it wasn't about him. It was about Ebony, and we're having a conversation, and people were saying what they're saying. But if we were to say based on what you were saying, then you could say, okay, I have a blind spot in that regard. But again, it wasn't about him. It was about him stating his position and what he was saying, and Miss Ione was having a conversation stating what she was saying. So I feel like we're having this conversation, but I feel like the conversation isn't necessarily about what I haven't done. And in fact, let me change the words. I feel like it's about what you felt I did or didn't do, not about what's actually happening. And I think that's where we're missing each other, maybe. But again, I'm also prejudging and assuming that in that instance. But I'm feeling like this conversation isn't really about what was said on this panel, and rather more about how you felt I should have handled something, because Brandon wasn't the subject of conversation. Ebony was, which is why I never said anything about Brandon. I never said anything about Miss Ione. Haven't said anything about Nicole 85. I'm not going to say anything about you, Epiphany. I'm not going to say anything about Rika Mo, right? I'm not going to make a judgment listen, Epiphany, are you single? I'm not going to make a judgment if you are single or not.
No, I'm actually in a relationship. My boyfriend,
Fantastic.
he's not black, he's Italian, but I'm in a relationship, yeah.
Beautiful. And no matter what conversation I have, I'm not going to make a judgment on, oh, well, Epiphany, the reason why the situation is, I'm not going to have that, because at the end of the day, right, the conversation isn't about me and you and Miss Ione or Rika as to why we're single or why we're in a relationship or what. That's not the conversation. It's about Ebony specifically. Hence why I wanted to put that way. But I can say, if we go based on what you said, I'll say, hey, look, then I had a blind spot and I didn't see that, and that could be a tinge. If you want to run it to its fullest course, if we were to say I agree on that point, which I don't, but I'm going to say, let's say we run it to its course, would be a tinge of misogyny, because I was not be able to. You could class it as that. I'm not going to class it as that, because I don't believe that's what was happening. I had my reason why I wasn't judging nobody. But if we were to run it that course, it would run to that space, and so you'd have some type of point. Would that be fair if that was the case?
Okay, so the only reason why I even came up, and maybe, yeah, I feel like, yeah, you're right in that regard. Like, maybe you didn't take that position, but I only feel like this is becoming a point of conversation because this conversation is happening with Black women and in the Black community, because hypergamy, like I said, it's not considered this strange, horrible, like nefarious thing. Like, oh, you wouldn't date a bus driver as a millionaire. This is nefarious. Not to say that you're specifically saying that, just to say that the conversation has been catapulted to this level because the discord is happening about Black women, and with two Black women discussing, even though, because I don't even think Black men specifically were mentioned in the convo. It was just like a men, like oh, would you date a bus driver that, like, not a Black bus driver, you get what I'm saying? So I just kind of felt like that the only reason why the conversation became this big, topic was because, Black women were talking about it. And you normally date the brokest men. We normally date the men that don't have the resources. So I just found like that part to be like so strange, that this topic was becoming such a big thing. Like, oh, Black women need to lower their standards, and that's why they're single. I'm like, we're going to use a woman that was married to talk about why, she at least she tried, and maybe it failed, but most marriages fail anyway. So yeah, but like I just felt like that's the reason why this conversation is getting as big as it is, and that's the reason why I said that. But that does not mean that that's what you said, and I understand that.
And so I want to say this as well. I think this is why it's so important to have conversation, right? Because in a sense, what you've actually done, right? And that's why I was saying to people earlier on about, don't put your feelings into this conversation, because when you put your feelings in the conversation, you're going to miss what's actually being said. Because in a roundabout way, we've come back to the very beginning in terms of what you said, right? Your opinion is not about what I said. Your opinion is about what other people are saying. And then you kind of projected it onto what I've said. So what you're tackling isn't what I've said. Because this whole conversation, the reason why it's happening is because, yes, it involves a Black woman. Okay, great. But I decided to talk about it. Why? Because I'm a Black person and it's blown up into the sphere, and we talk about Black things on this channel. So your point about generally we wouldn't be speaking about this doesn't really hold water, because that's not the point here. The point is we talk about Black things here and Black relationships here. You know what I'm saying to you? So in that general again, but the reality is in this situation, it blew up. Then it blew up and it's blown up around Black people. Then your issue isn't with me saying what I'm saying. Your issue is with other people blowing it up, right?
Right, and there's people in your there's people in your, chat. There's male users that, well, I guess your fan base that are in the chat that are saying something different than you. So maybe I was directing my talking points to these individuals in the chat and came up on that type of wave. And then when I heard Brandon, I was like, okay, no, I gotta wait because I gotta say my, But then, yeah, and then, so I guess so it's really maybe
I shoot
just
everybody, black men and black women.
Yeah, and Kojo, you tend to always have a balanced perspective. So, and I always respect that about you. But maybe your followers and the people that follow you, they all have different opinions. So sometimes, even though you may hold one opinion, the male followers that you have may not, and we'll be having Discord with them. And I guess that's why I came up off of that Discord. So, yeah.
No, I respect that. And I appreciate it, Epiphany. And thank you for having that respectable dialogue as well with me. I mean, this is the kind of conversations we need to have in our community. Whether we agree or disagree in a moment, we can have respectful dialogue. So Epiphany, I appreciate it. I like the name Epiphany, by the way. So so shout out to your man, you know what I mean? Yeah, who's calling me? Oh, I
Sorry,
appreciate
it's me,
you.
Nicole. I just wanted to clarify something because I think Epiphany may have and may have
Go for it.
been talking about or referring to me. And I really wanted to clarify something. So at the very beginning, I said, I don't think that she should date a bus driver because the respect factor would not be there. So I don't think it just doesn't add up, right? It doesn't match for a millionaire woman to date a black or any bus driver, whether black or white, right? But what I'm saying is her attitude on that panel or on the when she was being questioned, she's on video, right? So the rolling of the eyes, the whole body language, right? She can't really do anything about her voice, so to speak, because she just naturally has a deep voice. But her body language, that is what I meant by attitude. I also addressed that if she has that attitude, that could be affecting her relationships, her current relationships. We don't know. We don't know if the reason why she was divorced was her fault, her ex-husband's fault. Maybe it was both of their faults. Maybe it was nobody's fault and they just split because, they're both, working and they don't have time for one another, right? So we don't know that. But because the conversation was about her and her attitude or her and what she said, excuse me, my thought was, okay, well, it was really, to me, her attitude, what she portrayed on that particular area. That's what I mean. Panel, whatever. Sorry, I just wanted to make that very clear. So, and I would have said the same thing if it were a man. So I give as good as it gets when it comes to the men and the women. The men, I give more pushback on the men simply because if y'all are supposed to be leaders, y'all really need to get the smoke. But I'm just saying from this point, I think it was really how she portrayed herself on that panel. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, appreciate it. Rico Morich, welcome to the conversation. Thank you for your patience. I appreciate you.
Hey.
Okay,
so I'm gonna speak from a point of view of I think a lot of the people in the chat. Some of these conversations I think is above a lot of our heads when it comes to millionaires and six figures and all that type of thing. And I think we get caught in the middle. Us, people that go to work, who work 9 to 5s, who may be in relationships right now or has been in relationships in the past. Some of us that's in like our 30s, going to like 35, 36. And so I think a lot of us are stuck in the middle. We have like influence from both sides. Like we may have came from single mothers. Fathers might be absent or wasn't equally as involved in the parenting situation. So like for me, I came from a neighborhood where it was all single mothers in my apartment complex. It was only one man who stayed in my apartment complex, and he was a single father. And all of these children in my apartment complex were just fatherless children, right? And so all of the men, the young boys in my neighborhood would be outside. They'll be at the corner stores. They'll be doing what they do. You know, they'll be, some of them selling drugs, some of them in gangs and things like that. And all of this is like a trickle effect of what's, you know, what happens in some of our communities, but not all of our communities. So sometimes we grow up with an attitude of, I'm not dating no dude who's X, Y, and Z, because a lot of these women had to go out and struggle, had to go out and get extra jobs, had to, you know, sometimes sacrifice not working to be able to watch their kids. And all of these things like play into part of the quote unquote attitude that a Black woman may have. So if I'm growing up and I'm seeing my mom go through something like that, I don't want to go through that. So I'm gonna work hard. I'm gonna go to work. I'm gonna go to school. I'm gonna make sure I do this and I do that to refrain from being in the position she was in. And so then we are faced with some of the men who may be in our bracket, who may be our equal, but they don't pull themselves up in the way that we feel like, oh, come on, man, you slack. We know you can do better than this. And some of us dated those guys. I've dated those guys in the past when I was younger. I didn't look, okay, like I didn't built, if y'all want to say built with a man, help men with their children. I mean, I done did it all, and I just can't do that anymore. So I do have to hold myself to a high standard, but I won't overlook, because in the past I have overlooked those dudes who were the quote unquote good guys, because, oh well, he's not as edgy, or he's not this, or he's not that. So this can play both ways. I think a lot of good men do go overlooked. A lot, because you know, even what Brandon was saying, I get what he was saying, and I can get how people in the chat feel like he does have like a chip on his shoulder or like an arrogance. But a lot of men that make money, that money and men go hand in hand. Like the way they make their money, and you know what they do to get their money, they take pride in that. And so it could come off as an arrogance. It could come off as a, you know, a certain type of attitude. People could say that Ebony had attitude. I didn't just feel like she had an attitude. I feel like that was a woman who was standing on what she felt like. I'm not dating a bus driver. Then that's just what that was. If she felt like I worked hard, I got to where I go, I don't have to date a bus driver. Not saying nothing wrong with a bus driver. Hell, when I was younger, city bus drivers was like security, job stability, pensions. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at it from that standpoint. So I think it's just got something to do with a lot of status and financial standpoint rather than I'm dating just in general. I think a lot of people aren't really dating to like for characteristics and family building and community and unity, which I think is more important. I think it's a lot of, okay, well, what's the money looking like? Okay, then we're gonna talk about social status. And then we can talk about your characteristics and this and that. Because if women want to date men with money, well, you gotta be willing to date a man who might want you to be in the house more than him cooking and cleaning. He might want you to be the sole proprietor of watching the children and taking control over the household. He might, wouldn't prefer for you to work. And if you do work, he don't want you to get too hired, too much when you outside of the household as much as he is. So I do, see from both standpoints on how they could, kind of create this division in between us. But I think us in the middle, we can just hit left and right. And it really don't have nothing to do with this.
I appreciate Rika. And I think I love the points that you've brought up as well, because I think in reality as well, a lot of the conversation is above us. It's above our pay grade. And I've said it before, sometimes those conversations trickle down into us not having real conversations amongst each other. Because we're using a vantage point of something that most of us aren't in that space. And I think it's such an interesting thing, right? Because, when I'm typically talking about these situations, I'm typically trying to find the root analysis, the root cause for certain issues, right? And a root cause as to why certain things go the way they do. And I think looking at Ebony Williams, she's an individual, but she represents a group of people who also might have felt slighted by the way that people might have judged Ebony based on the things that happen. My job my YouTube is based upon spotting those things that are body language, has always been, right? When most people have met me, when they've seen me, is because of body language. So one of the first things that I saw with Ebony was body language. Her body language was telling us that she was not in the place for this conversation. It wasn't just a place, it was as I think Jay put it, as a job title, immediately kind of just triggered something and the energy kind of shifted, and you can kind of see it. Now, if some people don't see it, that's fine. You didn't see it. I'm gonna tell you from my perspective, I saw it. You know, someone said my career, bruv. You're right. It's my career. You're true, right? It's something that I saw, right? And so when you see that, my thing is, you know, if I was talking to Ebony, and let's say I was talking to Ebony and Yala, and I was listening to them, watching them speak, and I saw that, I would have asked her, Ebony, it looks like you've got some contentable issues here. What's going on? Because the way your face just got triggered in that moment, you know, the way it triggered that moment based upon the job title, seems like you know, it seems like you got a problem with this situation, right? I would have had more expansion, would have had more conversation. Now, the very thing I do with Ebony is the very thing we do with Ready to Love. We do it with Put a Ring. We do it with Anyana. You know, I did it with Ayana from Love is Blind. I try to pick up on the subtle cues, you know, and the subtle cues that people bring to the table. And one thing, and it's funny enough, it's really interesting. With women, we don't question. With women, they don't want to question their intuition, and I don't want to question their intuition either. When you get a sense of something, we got to believe that you have a sense of something. I'm telling you, I sensed it. I could see it. So I said, but let me not leave it there, because I like to provide evidence to show people. So as soon as the evidence also is brought up, we can see. And then even today, now this video's come out, double down some more and let people know what it is. And I said, that's the attitude that people are seeing. And I keep saying to people that sometimes women think that you are giving this energy to someone else, and it's like no one else saw it. But the reality is we are seeing it. And maybe I'm not in your tax bracket, so it don't really matter. I'm not in your tax bracket. The same way you saw Brandon. If Brandon's now having issues with women and you can see something, have you not said it? Have the ladies not in the chat said, "Ooh, we saw Brandon's attitude and maybe that's why he's single"?
Right.
Have you
But
heard me?
see,
Have you heard me
even
push back?
yeah, like but even with Brandy, I mean, where I'm from, we call it popping your. Can I cuss on here?
We try to
Okay, I ain't
keep
gonna
it
cuss.
minimal, but
But yeah, but where I'm from, you know, we call it kind of like, you know, you displaying your accomplishments. I didn't see a problem. I didn't even see a problem with him saying something about making a mistake. That comes with those type of guys. I think a lot of women like, I want to date a guy with money. Us in the middle, we want to date a guy with money, but dating guys with money come with a lot of other stuff. And so I don't think we might be ready. Some of them, I'm not gonna say all of them, but some of them may cheat. Some of them may feel like they can date more than one woman. They can have more than one woman. You know, it's a lot of things that come into that with dating a guy with money. But I don't think that we are even willing to do that sometimes. And so it puts us in the middle. And it's like, you know, we're just gonna be single. You know, I don't know if you know the YouTuber Shara, the sprinkle lady.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so like on TikTok, they got the video of Ebony up, and like a lot of people in the comments was like, "Oh, you know, sprinkle, 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 sprinkle." I know who they referencing to, Shira, and I love Shira, but her content is for women who want to get the bag. It's for
Yeah.
women who are strictly getting to the bag, and so she advocates for women to take men back if they cheat, as long as they paying. She advocates for women to dress a certain type of way, dress in modesty to attract a man with money rather than with the long nails and the color. So she breaking it down to women, the things you have to do to get to men and get with men with money. But I think that goes over a lot of women's head. That's what she's trying to say, that dating men with money sometimes comes with other things that I don't think that we can even fathom or want to do. So sometimes we might have to date not necessarily Ebony, but us middle class women, date the bus driver who has job security, who may have a pension, who may have some real estate property, who may have a good savings account, who's close to retirement, you know, who's, you know, children may be older, off in college, who has some type of stability, security, and is in a growing period. I don't think that a lot of women, I think those men do get overlooked. But for Ebony, no, I wouldn't. If I was on y'all, I wouldn't even brought up a bus driver to Ebony. I think Ebony's attitude came from kind of like, girl, really? Like a disrespect. Like, girl, a bus driver now. You know, I don't think it was necessarily to the bus driver. It was like, why would you bring up a bus driver when look where I'm at, and why would you bring up a bus driver? That's where I think the attitude may have came from.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Nicole, if I want to add anything? Don't know if you want to add anything. But no. You know, listen. I'll go for it. Yes, Nicole.
Sorry.
Hey, go for it.
Sorry, I
That's all right, babe.
did. I just want to say, because I actually just wrote it in the chat, but I don't, now looking back and just even listening to the young lady that was just speaking, I don't know if it was necessarily just about like a bus driver per se. I think she was using the bus driver as like a kind of like an example, but not. I think she was more so saying, why is it that we always go straight to a man's money versus not his character? Because she talked about his character immediately after. Like, what about a man's character? And I have to share this. Is kind of personal, but I never, when I first met my husband, believe it or not, I never asked him what he did, because I honestly believed that if I asked him that, it would cloud my judgment. Now, I took cues, right? Because I knew he was a homeowner in a certain state where homes were pretty expensive. I knew that he had a purebred dog and that he took very good care of his dog. I knew that he had a couple of vehicles, and I knew one of the vehicles that he had was extremely expensive, right? And I knew that it was in good working condition. I also knew that he would walk his dog at night at like 12 a.m. Now, if you walking your dog at 12 a.m. and you're sure, you got to be in some type of good neighborhood, right? Right? So that I took cues from that, but I never wanted to cloud. And I'm not saying other people should do this. So I'm just saying this was just giving you my personal experience. But thinking back, I'm thinking that may have been the reason why Iyanla asked that. Because I actually thought, well, why would she ask about a bus driver? Why didn't she at least ask about, I mean, I don't know, a district manager or something like that. I don't know. Somebody who wouldn't necessarily make what she makes, but does well, right? So that's what I'm kind of thinking. And I could be wrong, but that's kind of what I'm thinking, which would make sense.
No, you know what? I mean personally, and I kind of agree with what you're saying, because I personally think the question was, I think Anyala set her up. I'm gonna be honest with you, Anyala lowballed her on purpose. There was no need for Anyala to go to bus driver except to get a response that would prove the point. And I think many people are not aware of this. I think. But it's something that I've done it on this channel before. Like when I asked women, would you date a man in McDonald's? You said it's not about money, but would you date a man in McDonald's? Right now, of course, I'm not expecting anyone to date anyone at McDonald's. You know what I mean? Like you lowball it on purpose so that you create the extreme to receive the reactions so the person can understand where you're coming from and say, hey, look, it's not about money. It's you have to have a nuanced viewpoint. And so I think Anyala on purposely lowballed her on purpose in that question to reveal the actual reality of the situation, which is, baby, you are not looking at it from a point of view in terms of, like you were saying, about the character. You're so focused on the money issue that you're not really focusing on the character issue. And that's where most people have missed it. That's why I said that both men and women were arguing about stuff. I'm just on Twitter and I'm seeing women say, yeah, don't settle for these broke-ass niggas. Don't settle for these broke-ass women. I'm seeing some in the chat. Epiphany, I've seen you, baby. I've seen you to say these black broke-ass men. Like, I see this. Like, women get excited to tell that don't settle for this broadcast name. We don't want us to settle. But the reality is you missed what she was doing. And I already admitted this yesterday about she lowballed this thing on purpose. And the reason why is to reveal the character of the individual person. Because if now, well, Epiphany asked me a question, which I felt was far away from what I was discussing. But how did I react? If I now start jumping, it's going to reveal my character. The question is done so it reveals the character of the person and what you're actually looking at. So when Mrs. Ione asked me a question and said, but if they're women that are higher than you, would you not date them? And if I go tripping out like, why would I want to date these high ass? You would know straight away about a part of my attitude, right? And how I see things. So instantly the question reveals the character and the attitude of the person in front of you, more attitude than actual character, because you need a bit more of information to determine the actual character of the person. But the question was to reveal the attitude. And so immediately when she responded the way she did, she showed her attitude. And that is the most important part. And now the rest of us, both men and women, how do we respond to the situation? Because if we're showing our tail, if the men are showing their tail saying, you know, that's why you lot are gold diggers and you're unloved and uncared for, now you can see them. And these people are hurt.
Yes. Because this is what I meant. Like, because I've said this before too, like in the chat sometimes, that sometimes when I hear men saying stuff like that, and I don't mean to get off subject, but when I hear men doing the exact same thing, I'm like, okay, yep, you sound real angry, you sound real hurt, you sound real bitter, but I typically know the point has been missed by them. It's not, and I get this, and I get wholeheartedly that we as women, we do need to look for somebody that can provide. Let's not even say, oh, women shouldn't be doing. No, you should be. However, you should be looking at that man's character, because if that man can provide, but he doesn't have the character to go along with it, but let's say he is a blue collar worker, maybe he doesn't make a whole lot, but because his character is in the right place and he wants to do for that woman, he will do. One thing about it is I have realized throughout my few years living on this earth is that women can actually inspire men to do more. Honestly, most of the men that I know that make a lot of money, they were inspired to do so because of a woman, whether they were with that woman or because they wanted that type of woman. They were inspired. And so I think that's where Iyanla, and like I agree with you, she did lowball her. And I kept thinking, like, why did she ask for a bus driver? But honestly, I do believe it went kind of over all of our heads, where she really wanted her to focus on, what about his character? Then we can focus on his money.
Yeah. And I think that's the key point of this is, like, again, I'm not asking her to date a bus driver, but do you know how part of how I also know that she's so focused on the economical aspect is when she spoke about her trauma around finances, when she started talking about how she grew up, how she started speaking about it on the podcast, that actually revealed the nature of how she felt towards finances. It's very similar to the Miller and Gil situation we had. Of course, Gil wasn't great, so we take that on board. But how Miller felt about finances, the trauma behind it, how Noy also with Steve, the trauma behind finances, and how somebody can have an attitude towards something. And so what was revealed in that moment was the attitude. So it's not that this lovely lady, Eboni, can't get a man. If you notice, nobody here has said she can't get a man. She can get a man.
Yeah.
Clearly she can get a man. You know what I mean? Clearly she can catch a man. She's beautiful.
She's gorgeous. And I think, we can talk about, I agree that her attitude on the platform, like her body language, all of that. Body language is in conjunction with attitude, even though a lot of people don't realize that. They go hand in hand. So yeah, her attitude, and like I said, I would have said it if it were a man. I would talk about his body language and how he's doing. It's the same thing. We just have to be mindful on the platforms. Now, if you at home, you doing kitchen table talk, fine. Whatever you say, whatever your body language, who cares? Nobody cares about that. But when you're on a platform, sometimes we do, male and female, and especially as Black people, we do have to be mindful, because there is the angry Black woman, trope, or the angry Black man trope. We see it. So I'm talking about specifically how people view us. And then this gives more ammunition to Black men hate Black women and Black women hate Black men. When that in my everyday life, I don't see this. Like, I see this on the internet, but in everyday life, no. Most Black men are extremely helpful to me. Most Black women are cool with Black men. I don't see this in an everyday. However, we do come across attitudes, bad business practices, we do come across that. But what I'm saying is, on a platform, we do need to be mindful.
Appreciate it. Leah, welcome to the conversation. I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
Hello.
No,
I
hello.
love
How you doing?
everything you do. I am so happy to be here with all of you. And so I have a different perspective here because
Please.
I grew up, and I'm just going to say the truth. I grew up with a dad who's a doctor and a mom who has a PhD. Therefore,
Ooh.
my expectations for the man I marry are based on what my father did for me. Even
Okay.
before I knew, about boys and kissing them and all that kind of stuff, I was, I lived in a certain lifestyle. And so for me, it's not about what the man does, it's what my father did for me and just the lifestyle I live. And so I'm not going to go from, where I am and go down just because he's cute and he made me laugh. But it's not, I mean, because I say I am I tried being a gold digger. I have failed miserably. I'm not going to give up. I'm never going to quit because I ain't messing up broke. But like, I want to go to a restaurant and not have to worry about the market price. I've never paid a car note. Why am I going to start now with you? Now, my attitude been very different in my 20s. I'm 43. And also, I don't have children by choice because I've never lived with anyone because I don't check up. So I am a real outlier here. But for me, it's not about the income level. It's about the lifestyle I'm used to. And also for Ebony's perspective, because, I went off to school and people hate this, but I got a law degree. But when you work so hard and Ebony passed the bar and she's done all this stuff, and I think when I say it's an insult to her, I don't mean because it's degrading to the man. It's just like, you want me to, do all this work for a bus driver. And shout out to all the bus drivers and the trained engineers and the pilots out there, because it's not about the actual profession. It's just, I think Ian was just using it as a catch-all for blue collar workers, right? And so, for me, I don't need a billionaire. Who gonna keep up with that? Not me. I don't have time to go live long enough to spend all your money anyway. But just to be so I can be comfortable with, I'm not paying a mortgage. I'm not paying a bill. My mama never paid a bill. Why would I? However, she could have because she had a PhD. And so that's all I have to say. And thank you.
Oh no, wait! Don't leave now, baby. We need you. We like to know a bit more. Listen, I appreciate you sharing your standards. I don't think there's anything wrong with having the standards that you require. And I think that's fair. You know what I mean? I asked Mr. Wilkins how he found dating in 2023. How have you found dating in 2023?
Me?
Yeah. So I asked Wilkins how he found it.
I haven't been on a date in 2023, so I can't tell you that.
Okay.
But apparently, I'm the type of person that I don't go out looking for a man. I just believe that he's going to find me, because when he finds me, it's a good thing. So I'm just gonna wait for him to bump into Publix. Because I believe that one person you find is magic. So, and I don't want to, just pick somebody just to have the big party in the ring. And also, I mean, I don't mind waiting until I'm 70, 80, even if it comes tomorrow, just whenever it happens. I'm talking to you too, Brandon. Whenever you find that love, it's going to be there for you. And so age doesn't matter. Because I'm glad I didn't get married young, because all my friends got married in their 20s. They're divorced. They have child support, alimony. But, my coochie's tight. My bank account is good. And let's go out and get these yachts and have a party. Let's do it. Come on. Anybody. I'm free.
Wait, Leo, what state are you in?
Alabama.
Okay. I'll make sure when I'll say hello if I pass by.
Oh, come on through. I love to host you here. This Southern hospitality. And listen, like I said, them YouTube chicks be looking nice. I don't think them. They be real nice. I know that the pound, the dollar is hitting.
Oh man. Oh gracious. I appreciate it, Leah, honestly. I appreciate your thoughts on that.
Well, I'll be back in the chat. Thank you.
No worries, babe. We appreciate it. I like that. Nice light energy. We love that. No, listen, these conversations, I've reached almost my 3 hours now. Damn. So I was meant to do. But love these kind of conversations, because it does give us a time, an opportunity to have real conversations with both men and women. And to get different perspectives as well. And I think we said it yesterday. We appreciate the pushback. We appreciate different thoughts, and the way that both men and women think about things. And I love the fact that, it's also the kitty tight. Oh, gracious. We can do this respectfully as well. So, hopefully there's nothing comes out again tomorrow, so we can move on. Until something else. But there is another discussion point which I will show you a video for, but I won't talk about it today, but probably end up talking about it tomorrow, lunchtime for me and morning time for you guys. And I'll play the clip so you guys can see it, and then we're gonna bounce. But we wanna have some great conversations, and I appreciate you guys having these great conversations with me as well. So Ebony Williams, if you see this, baby, please don't release anything again. The people are tired. They don't want anymore. Okay, they're tired. They don't want to do anymore. All right. So got a little clip for you guys, what we're going to discuss tomorrow as well. So part 4, so we can go part 4 as well. So let's have a little listen to this as well, because this was on my thing today, and I was like, whoa. So I went to do some research. I went onto her TikTok. I've messaged her. Hopefully we might have to get an interview. I'll see what happens, but I'd love to get a different perspective. But let's have a little listen.
So earlier this year, I ended a relationship and cut off an engagement from a great man. He was a good man. He loved God. He was a praying man. He loved and adored me. He was there for me. He was handsome. He was well educated. He didn't have any kids. He checked all the boxes, but there was still something missing. And I just knew that I could not go through with this marriage. There was just something that did not connect. I felt that there should have been a connection between he and I in order for me to be his wife. And so I cut off the engagement. And it was so difficult because he was a good man. It's easy when a person is not good. You can justify why you cut things off. But when a person is truly a good person, it's hard to explain. So I found myself trying to explain it to family and friends, and they were asking me a whole bunch of questions that, I could not say, exactly why, other than the fact that I just did not feel the connection. There was something that was not there that I needed to be there in order for this to be my husband. And so I stopped trying to explain it, and I just trusted my decision, and I went on. But then I got an epiphany, and it was just like, have you ever been shoe shopping and you saw a nice pair of shoes and it's like, ooh, I love the color. I love the style. The heel is the right size and it's a reasonable price. Like it's on sale and it's a good shoe. But then when you approach the shoe, you see that it's a size 6 and you need a size 7. Does it take away from the fact that the shoe is a good shoe? Does it take away from the fact that you're getting a great deal for the quality? Does it take away from the fact that the heel is still the right size? It doesn't matter. All of that still makes the shoe is still good. But if it's not your size, it's not the shoe for you. And so that is what I had to accept. Yes, he was a good man. But what that feeling was is that he was not a great fit for me. It didn't take away from who he was, but it was just confirmation that he was not a good fit for me. And that leads me to say that some of us are trying to force relationships when we know they don't fit. It doesn't mean that the person is not good. It doesn't mean that they are not good-hearted people. It just means that they're not a good fit for you. So free them up. Don't continue to settle for things that you know is going to cause discomfort in the future. Me purchasing a size 6 shoe when I wear a 7 is discomfort. Don't do it. So earlier this year,
First and foremost, can we just appreciate how good looking she is? Because I mean, listen, it was the bangs for me. I can't lie to you. It was the bangs for me. I appreciate it. I can't lie to you. She's looking good. You know what I mean? So first and foremost, let's honor a beautiful black woman. Number 2, when I listened to it, I was like, yo, something ain't right, B. Because like And it's like you gave us something, but didn't give us something. Yeah. Okay. You gave us something, but you didn't give us something. Like you gave us a part of the explanation, but we're still confused. You know what I mean? Yeah. So the same way we can't see it, she couldn't see it in that moment because the thing was this low. Okay. Like we can't see what you see because I felt like she didn't explain the whole way through. Okay. I feel like we need to, you know, we needed to have a bit more information to understand it. Otherwise, there's no point saying it because we can't really understand where it went wrong. Now, I get it. Intuition kicks in. But let me tell you this now. I don't know anybody who has done up into marriage has got all the way to a point where only intuition has stopped them. You know, I know that intuition is good and it's important, but sometimes you sense the intuition, but then you also see something. You know what I mean? Yeah, there's normally some level of evidence to kind of connect with your intuition. So I want to know, what did you see, sis? All right, what did you see? You know what I mean? Hey, listen, you guys are saying it. You guys are saying the different understandings. You're saying there's somebody else in the picture. Some of you are saying this might be small d. Some of you are saying that the sex might not have banged. You guys are saying it. I'm saying I don't know yet. Okay, I'm saying I don't know yet. So we're gonna discuss this tomorrow. You know what I mean? We're gonna discuss it tomorrow. You know, is it me? Am I wrong? Am I wrong? Is it not good? I don't look at the details. Is it? Am I wrong? I thought she looked cute. I thought she looked good. I like her. You know, I got a thing for noses too. I like her nose. I got a thing for noses. I like kind of thick noses. So it's a thick nose and a thick lips for me. I ain't gonna lie to you. Something about it. Okay. All right. But I'm gonna keep my my flirtatious ways to a minimum. But yeah, something's got to speak about. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, we gonna we gonna talk about. Actually, I think I've been on her profile. She's a beautiful woman. She's a beautiful woman. Okay, she was a beautiful woman. So you know, we appreciate. I think her name is Lisa. Lisa speaks on you know, she's kind of cute. I like her look. I don't know what it is. She likes the bangs as well, and I kind of like that as well. But I like that kind of face. You know what I mean? I don't know. You know, someone says give a Lewisham girl in 08. You know what? I like a bit of the. You know, I like a bit of that. You know, that energy. So for me personally, it ain't never been a problem for me. She's a beautiful woman. So, but anyway, listen. Forget that. We're talking. Like I said, we'll talk about that tomorrow. We're back here once again as well. Okay, so look, come ready and prepared again to do battle tomorrow. We go again. All right, we go again. And again, thank you, ladies and gents in the chat. Thank you for having your say, and thank you for discussing in a respectful manner and shooting back at myself as well. Even when you disagree, it's good, you know, because we get to know. Okay, all right, so. Thank you so much. All right, listen, we're going to leave you with a little something, you know, because we always do. Okay, but since obviously it's my good sis, I'm going to say.
Not on my watch. Not on my watch.
We'll be back here for 9 p.m. UK time, which will be 3 p.m. 3 p.m. CST and 4 p.m. EST for the UK Black British panel. We'll be talking today later on as well about can I show my soft side, my vulnerable side? And actually, we'll have a little bit of a tussle about the Ebony Williams situation from a UK perspective. So you'll get to hear that as well. So tonight, we'll be having a discussion about can I show my softer side, my vulnerable side? We'll have that discussion and there'll be a small little debate at the end as well about the Ebony Williams situation. So tune in at 3 p.m. 3 p.m. CST and 4 p.m. EST. Okay. All right. So you know, we appreciate you guys. It's the wrong bucket hat today, Felicia. That's the problem. It's the wrong bucket hat. I need the back one. It's the power of the black you know, hat. That's what makes a difference. Yeah. So anyway, listen, we appreciate you. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen. Tomorrow we'll be back here again for another one enthralling conversation. You know what? You're gonna leave here with something. Even if you disagree, we're going to tussle and we're going to enjoy it. Okay, so much love, much appreciation, and
I'm leaving here with something. You know what I mean? I'm from around the way. I'm leaving with something.